You are now listening to Arranged Mafia Daddy by Bella King.
Chapter 1. Sage. The sound of my dad's voice is urgent, with a strong undercurrent of visceral fear. Sage, I need you to come here now. I throw my phone down on my bed, rushing across the hallway to his office. He spends most of his time there when he isn't out playing poker with his friends. I barely ever see him, but I'm not bothered by it. We don't get along that well after Mom died, and he started acting strange a few weeks ago. I was going to move out, but now I'm glad I didn't. He could be hurt or in trouble, and I'm the only one who can help him. Sage, come right now, he says as I rush to the door to his office. He opens it before I'm able to grab the knob, and I search his hunched figure for some sign of what he could be calling me in for. What's wrong? I ask, my eyes moving over his disheveled appearance and the deep lines of worry etched into his face. There's no blood or sign of injury. That's good, at least. I was worried he was hurt, but looking at his face suggests that physical harm would have been the better outcome. Something is horribly wrong, and he's just looking at me, unable to respond. Dad, say something. He doesn't respond immediately, just gestures for me to come in and close the door behind me. I do, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. His office is cluttered, papers strewn everywhere, and the smell of stale cigarettes hangs in the air. He never used to smoke, but since Mom died, he's been smoking and drinking like he's trying to join her as quickly as possible. The funny thing is, he never seemed to like her much before she died. Sage, I've made some terrible mistakes, my dad finally says, his voice cracking. He collapses into his chair, burying his face in his hands. It's all coming down on us now, and I don't know how to fix it. What are you talking about, Dad? I ask, stepping closer. What mistakes? He looks up at me, eyes red and filled with despair. He must have been drinking, because he only looks like this when he comes home after a night out with his friends. Gambling debts. I thought I could win it back, thought I could make everything right again. But I've lost everything, Sage. Everything. But you run a business, you make plenty of money, I say, laughing, despite the gravity of what he's telling me. It feels like a joke, but I know he wouldn't look like this if it were. He shakes his head, putting his face in his palms again. I'm sorry, but that's gone now too. What do you mean gone? I ask, trying hard not to yell. Everything gone, he says, looking at me again and smiling like he's lost his mind. Poof, like a dream, gone just like Maria. I clench my fists. Don't bring Mom into your mess. She has nothing to do with it, I growl, feeling a surge of white-hot anger. I hate it when he mentions her. He always acts like he's miserable because of her, like she chose to die instead of sticking around to take care of him. He waves his hand dismissively. It doesn't matter. It's all gone anyway. On top of that, I owe money. How much do you owe? I ask, my voice barely a whisper. More than I can ever repay, he says, his voice breaking. And now they're coming for me, for us. The knot in my stomach tightens to the point where I feel like my entire body is about to cramp up. Who's coming for us? He doesn't need to answer. A knock on the door echoes through the house, followed by the sound of it opening. Heavy footsteps reverberate on the hardwood floor, approaching with a measured, menacing pace. My dad's eyes widen with fear as he looks toward the office door. It's too late, he whispers. They're already here. Before I can react, the office door swings open, and a tall, imposing figure steps inside. He's dressed in a perfectly tailored suit that accentuates his broad shoulders and muscular build. His dark hair is slicked back, revealing chiseled features and a strong jawline. Everything about him radiates power and danger, but it's his eyes that really draw me in. They're cold, piercing, and calculating, yet possess an allure that's impossible to ignore. When they meet mine, I feel like he's looking straight into my soul, attempting to pull it out of my body and consume it. As he takes another step, his presence fills the room, and I feel a strange, unsettling mix of fear and fascination. I've never seen anyone like him, but I know that he's the type of person you regret ever meeting, like a bobcat in the woods at night. Good evening, Mr. Thompson, the man says, his voice smooth and controlled, rumbling deep in his chest with a Russian accent. I believe we have some business to discuss. My dad trembles in his chair, unable to meet the man's gaze. Victor, he croaks, his voice barely audible. Please give me more time. I can get the money I just need. Time is a luxury you no longer have, Victor interrupts, his tone icy cold, like a frigid wasteland where you're destined to die from frostbite if you're not torn apart by a polar bear first. He shifts his gaze to me, and a shiver runs down my spine. And who might this be? This is my daughter, Sage, my dad says, his voice shaking. Please, she has nothing to do with this. Victor's eyes narrow as he studies me, a faint, predatory smile pulling the corners of his mouth up. On the contrary, Mr. Thompson, I think she has everything to do with this. You told me you could liquidate your business, collect your assets, and sell your house, but you never mentioned having a daughter. How old is she? 23, I respond for my terrified dad. I'm 23, and I'd like to know what you've done to my dad. Are you the one who is taking advantage of him during poker nights? Victor looks at my dad and chuckles. Is that what you've been telling her? Really? Poker nights? That's cute. I look toward my dad, but he refuses to make eye contact with me. He's hunched over in his chair, trembling like he fears for his life. Has he been lying to me? Either way, I don't think it's fair to come here and terrorize him over gambling debts. Anyone who takes advantage of a broken man like that is as wicked as they come, and doesn't deserve any of the money they won. Besides, I wouldn't expect a man like Victor to play fair. I can see in his eyes that he's clever and ruthless, hardly the type to let another man win. I'll be taking Sage, Victor announces, taking a long step toward me. I jump back, letting out a gasp. No, you most certainly won't. Sage, please, my dad mutters. I shoot him a vicious look. Please what? Go with Victor? Are you serious? My dad still refuses to make eye contact with me. He's ashamed of himself, but he sees a way out through giving me to Victor. How can someone do that to their own flesh and blood? How can he trade me to save himself? I will let Sage make the choice, Victor says, a smirk dancing across his lips. Marry me, or I will kill your father. He pulls a silver revolver from his suit jacket and points it at my dad. His finger is already on the trigger, ready to blow him into the afterlife. No, I scream, my heart racing as I watch the color drain from my dad's face. Sage, please, my dad begs, his voice shaking. Just do what he says. Please. I feel a wave of betrayal wash over me, mixing with the fear and desperation already sitting deep in my gut. He's been lying to me, hiding the extent of his troubles, and now he's ready to sacrifice me to save himself. The realization hits me like a brick wall, but I don't think I can watch him die for it. And Victor could be lying. This could be a trick. I can't side with a stranger over my dad, especially not one who is threatening to take everything away from us. Tears blur my vision, but I refuse to let them fall. The room feels like it's closing in on me, the walls moving closer as Victor's gaze burns through me, waiting for my decision. I don't want to die, Sage, my father whispers, his voice filled with a pathetic, self-serving plea. I'll make it up to you. I promise I'll make this right. You can't make it right, Victor says, his voice deep and reprimanding. You've dug yourself into such a deep hole that someone else has to get you out. You have nothing to show for the $20 million you owe. Your business is worth only a fraction of the price you must pay, but I'm willing to settle if Sage agrees to my terms. I look at Victor, his expression calm, the revolver steady in his hand. He's watching me with a mixture of amusement and something else, something darker and more intense. There's a cruel satisfaction in his eyes, knowing that he's already won. His hand was aces before the cards were even dealt. My mind races, searching for a way out, but there's nothing I can do. If I refuse, Victor will pull the trigger and kill my dad in front of me. And despite the pain I feel from his betrayal, I can't let that happen. My moral obligation is to save him, no matter how undeserving he is, and it overrides my own fear and resentment. Would Mom have wanted me to make this choice? I'll never know. I suck in a deep breath, pulling my shoulders back and meeting Victor's cold eyes with my own. Fine, I say, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. I'll marry you, just don't hurt him. Victor's smile widens, his teeth shining like expensive pearls in the low light. He lowers his revolver, tucking it back into his jacket and patting the spot where it's hidden. You've made the right choice, Sage. I'd rather not take your father's life, no matter how much a fool he is. What would I gain? My stomach sinks so low that it feels like it's going to fall through me onto the floor. My mouth is so dry that when I open it to speak, I can't get the words out. Not that I would know what to say anyway. I'm stunned by the sharp turn my evening has taken. 1 minute I'm in my bedroom, scrolling through posts online, and the next I'm being stolen from my family by a towering beast with a Russian accent, and not a hint of empathy in his frigid stare. I have no clue why he would want to marry me, only that I've agreed to do it, and that entails much more than holding hands and kissing on the altar. The implications send a chill through my core, and a slight warmth in my groin that's hard to explain. I push it away, ignoring the weird feeling I get when Victor continues to stare at me. You are a lucky man to have such a beautiful daughter, he says, stepping toward me and grabbing my arm. He grins at my father. Expensive new toy. I'll try not to break her. My dad doesn't say anything. He just whimpers in his chair, unwilling to defend me or even look at what he's done. I hate him with everything in my body, the realization that he just ruined my life flooding over me like cold water. But as Victor takes me out of the room, joined by 2 bodyguards with rifles over their chests, I know that I can't take this back. I saved my dad's life, but I've ended my own. And things will never go back to normal.
Chapter 2. Victor. I leave Sage in the limo with my guards as I make a pit stop at one of the 7 high-stakes casinos I have scattered around the city. I've found that it's better to keep my operations small and frequent, rather than risk a large bust from the police if they uncover something too big. They don't care about the small gambling rings, as long as they don't get out of hand. Tonight I'll try my best not to let that happen, but when the stakes are high, it's worth it to gamble sometimes. I enter the building through a hidden side door, passing a few of my guards, who nod at me as I walk briskly past them. Inside, the ambience shifts, and it's like I've stepped into another world. The bleakness of the rainy atmosphere outside is replaced with warmth and the thick scent of cigar smoke. As I walk through the casino, I feel the urge to sit down and play. Roulette is my favorite game, but I try to stay away from the Russian variety. My life is more valuable than anyone else's here. I'm the puppet master, and without me, everything would collapse. This is my domain, my empire. I make my way past the tables, pausing for a moment to watch someone win big on roulette. They'll lose it all before the night is over, the glossy enthusiasm in their eyes turning to a dull heartache when they realize how quickly they lose everything. It's just like Mr. Thompson. He played a lot at my casinos. He was a regular who knew how to throw dice and keep going when he was on a winning streak, but the house always wins in the end. He lost it all, and then some, resorting to trading his daughter in order to keep his life. He'll never be allowed in one of my casinos again. And that's only if I don't decide to kill him to set an example. I doubt Sage would be all that angry, considering that he threw her to the wolves to save himself. I continue on from the roulette table, crossing through the double doors to the back rooms, where my next unfortunate customer after Mr. Thompson is chained to a chair. I don't intend to spare Sergey in the same way I did for Mr. Thompson. He owes more. And there's nothing he has to offer me to pay off his debts. Ivan is standing just outside the room where Sergey is being held, his hands clasped together in front of him, and a grim look on his face. Cheer up, I tell him, patting his shoulder as I push open the door. I have good news. Come inside, and let's deal with Sergey first, though. Ivan grunts, following me inside. He's never been much of a talker, but he's also my most obedient worker. Anything I want him to do, he does, no questions asked. The air is warmer inside the room, and slightly humid from Sergey's sweat. It smells stale and sour, like he's been here for days, but my men only brought him in this afternoon. I would have gotten to him straight away, but I didn't want to give Mr. Thompson the chance to pack his things and make a run for it. Sergey is in the middle of the room, sitting in a chair with his arms and legs tied down. A single glaring bulb hangs over his head, just in front of him, making it hard for him to see. He knows it's me, though, because he's suddenly very still. Ivan steps up to him first, taking the gag out of his mouth. Victor, Sergey stammers, "I can explain." I raise a hand to silence him. "You disappoint me, Sergey. You know the rules. Debts must be paid, and you shouldn't gamble more than you can afford. I thought you were smarter than that." Sergey's eyes dart around the room, looking for an escape that isn't there. He's still trying to wiggle his way out of this, just like he did when he was on a losing streak at my casino. I swear these people never learn, but I'm still going to try to teach him a lesson. "Please, Victor, I just need a little more time." "I can get the money," he blurts, sweat dripping from the end of his nose. "You are to call me sir if you expect any pity from me." I snap. "Yes, sir," he chirps, hope returning to his distressed expression. "It's false hope, I'm afraid." I walk toward him, rubbing my chin as I consider what to do. I know I don't want to kill him. He's more useful to me than someone like Mr. Thompson. He's fit and able to work. He still has a few more good years in him before he's no longer useful to me. "Please, sir, I'll do anything," he says, breaking my concentration. "Shut up," I growl. Sergey's pleas become more desperate. "I have a family, Victor. Think about my wife, my children. His children are adults, and his wife no longer loves him. I know this for a fact, so I refuse to take either of those things into consideration." I lean in closer, my gaze locking onto his. "You will work off your debt, Sergey. 10 years at the casino. You cause trouble, and you're dead. That's how this works." 10 years? He asks, totally stunned. "Would you prefer a bullet through your head?" I ask, reaching into my suit jacket. "No," he yelps, shaking his head so hard that sweat flies in every direction. I wrinkle my nose, taking a step back. "Ivan, get him out of here. Make sure he's chipped and tracked. I want him working in the kitchen on a 10-year contract." Ivan nods, letting out another grunt as he grabs Sergey. He lifts him up, carrying the entire chair out of the room and down the hallway. I chuckle, lighting a cigar and puffing smoke into the room for a moment before leaving. It's too hot in here. In the hallway, I lean against the wall, allowing the nicotine to soothe my mind for a moment. Ivan comes back down the hall, dusting his hands and shaking his head. "Did he give you any trouble?" I ask. He shrugs. "Nothing I can't handle." I smile. "Good man. Now that that's out of the way, I'd like to talk to you about another special mission I'm on. It involves a woman by the name of Sage, Mr. Thompson's daughter." Ivan perks up, but he doesn't say anything. He rarely does. "I'm going to get married," I say, waving my cigar in front of me. "A quick wedding, but a nice one. I'd like you to arrange everything for me and make sure you don't take too long. This weekend would be ideal." "That's tomorrow," he replies. "Is it? Time flies. I'd still like it to be this weekend. We can have it on the river. It's nice this time of year," I say, puffing smoke into the air. Sage might not be the biggest fan of the wedding, but she's agreed to it, and that's final, as far as I'm concerned. Ivan shrugs. "That's the spirit," I say, patting him on his stiff shoulder. "Just don't make it too gloomy. Women like sunshine and flowers. Get a bunch of roses, maybe 1,000 of them. Maybe 2,000, if you can." He nods obediently. "Let me know what you come up with," I say, looking down at my cigar. It's only a quarter of the way burned, but I really must get back to the limo. I don't want to leave Sage very long. She might change her mind and try to run off. I look up at Ivan and smile, feeling genuinely happy for the first time in a while. "I'll see you later, my friend. Romance awaits me, it seems." He grunts, and I walk back down the hall through the double doors into the casino. This is not about romance, of course, but when a woman like Sage comes into your life, you don't want to pass her up. I've been meaning to have children, a possible heir to the Brava throne, and it's best not to wait too long. Sage is. Well, she's fertile and her body is begging for a baby. What more can I say? She might not know it, but she's the ideal candidate for my heir. That's why I'm marrying her. She must be sworn into the family before she's allowed to carry any of my children. As I step back into the cool night air, the limo is waiting just as I left it. The guards open the door, and I slide in beside Sage, who looks up at me with a mixture of mock anger and curiosity. It's hard for her to remain furious with me when she barely knows who I am. "What were you doing?" she asks, her voice steady despite the tension between us. "Business," I reply, straightening my tie as the limo pulls onto the slick black road. "Clearly something illegal," she mutters, looking out the window as we leave the casino behind. Clearly I agree, amused by her attitude. I promised Mr. Thompson I wasn't going to break her, but I lied. She needs to be put in her place, and I know just the way to bend her to my will. "So, what's your deal anyway?" she asks, turning back to me and crossing her arms over her small chest. "I'm a businessman," I reply. As simple as that. A dry laugh escapes her mouth. "Sure, you're a businessman. That's laughable. Shouldn't you be a little more specific if you intend on having me as your wife?" "All in due time," I assure her, placing my hand on her thigh. She's wearing small jean shorts, not much to cover her pale skin. I feel goosebumps on her leg as I touch her, but she tries to act disgusted by me. I can only imagine what's going on in her pretty head as she wrinkles her nose at me. "Don't touch me." "I can touch my wife," I reply, rubbing her thigh. "You're so soft. So delicate. Have you ever been with a man before?" She jerks her leg away. "No. And that's not part of the arrangement. You said I was to marry you to save my dad. And that's all I'm going to be doing. A marriage means nothing without a proper consummation," I say, holding up a finger. "You'll do that for me, at least." "Not a chance," she snarls. I'm surprised by how quick she is to defy me, and how hot her eyes burn when she looks at me. She's clearly steeping in hatred, but that won't last long once I show her the delightful things I can do with my tongue. I settle back down in the seat beside her, opening a cooler that holds a bottle of champagne. "I don't have an engagement ring for you yet, darling, but I think a bottle will do in a pinch. Ice cold, too." "Just like your heart," she grumbles. I laugh. "Nice try, Sage, but I have no heart. Do you care for a drink?" I pop the top on the champagne bottle, watching the fizz overflow onto the thick red carpeted floor. It reminds me of something that will be happening right after our wedding. "I don't want to drink," Sage says, shaking her head. "I want to go home and forget this ever happened." "Not possible," I say, taking a sip straight from the bottle. "But you'll learn to enjoy your new life. Once you start behaving yourself, I'll show you how exciting this lifestyle can be. Money, cars, clothes, whatever you want, you're going to have. You won't want to go back." She looks at me for a moment, her eyes guilty of showing a hint of interest in what I'm saying. They say everything. Her words don't mean anything at this point because I know I have her hooked. Still, she tries to defy me again. "I doubt I'll ever like you, or your messed up lifestyle. I don't care about money. I care about my family, and you've ruined it." "You barely had a family," I reply, taking another sip from the bottle. "Your father was a gambling addict who sold you to a brat of a boss. Get over it." "So that's what you do," she says, leaning in with a smirk on her face. "You're running some kind of criminal organization." "Gambling rings, I admit. 7 of them, but I'll take you to one of the nicer ones tomorrow night. I want to show you a little slice of my life." "I don't like gambling," she replies, leaning back and crossing her arms again. "I don't care," I reply. There's a moment of silence as we move along the ever-darkening road, but I feel her eyes on me as I drink. She's curious more than she is angry. She knows she has nothing to go back to. Her father is a broken man, and I'm her only hope for a good life. Things certainly could be good for her if she chooses to submit, but I'm not going to force her to do that. I'm going to give her a choice, and she can decide whether she really wants to dive into this new world head first. "Where are we going now?" she asks, breaking the silence after only a minute. That curiosity is getting the better of her again. I lean back, studying her. "Where do you think?" She shrugs. "How should I know?" "Okay, so we're going to the ocean to feed you to the sharks. I say sarcastically. She narrows her eyes. I'm not afraid of you. I chuckle, lowering my voice and leaning in. You should be. I glance down at her legs to see those goosebumps appear again. I love the way they look on her skin. I love the way I'm able to affect her body with just my words. I don't even have to touch her to get her all worked up. I guess we're going to your house or something, she says, rubbing her thighs like she's cold. I know that's not the case. She's just trying to hide the way she feels about me. Yes, to my estate. It's a beautiful place, but you won't see much of it until morning, I reply, returning to the bottle of champagne. I don't really want to, she replies. I sigh, putting the bottle down and looking at her. I know she's smart because of the glow she has in her eyes. She's quick with her words, but I feel like she's not understanding what I'm trying to communicate to her. Do you understand what you've agreed to, Sage? I ask, dispensing with the games. I understand that my father made a mess, and now I have to clean it up. I'm supposed to marry you, but I still don't understand why, she says. I nod. You don't need to understand everything just yet. Your father's debts are now your responsibility. Fail to uphold your end of the bargain, and the consequences will be severe. I'm not planning on failing, she replies, her voice steady. But don't expect me to make this easy for you. I smile at her attitude. Even in the face of my threats, she's holding steady. It's an admirable trait, especially in the Bratva. I know I've made a good choice by taking her as my wife. Good, I say. I don't want it to be easy. I want to see how far you're willing to go, how strong you really are.
Chapter 3. Sage. The limo glides through the night, the city lights gradually giving way to the darkness of the countryside. I sneak glances at Victor, trying to gauge his mood, but his expression remains unreadable as he drinks the entire bottle of champagne by himself. I'm marrying a madman. That much is clear. The regret I feel is immense, but there's no way to turn back now that I've committed to it. As we approach his mansion, the vast estate slowly comes into view, illuminated by soft, golden lights. I can already tell that it's impressive, though I wouldn't feed Victor's ego by admitting that to him. Besides, he obviously acquired this wealth through immoral and devious dealings. He ruined my father's life with his gambling operations, and judging by the towering mansion we're driving toward, he's ruined countless others along with it. Good looks and a touch that gives me goosebumps don't make up for being evil. Nothing does. As the limo rolls to a gentle stop, Victor opens the door, jumping out and extending his hand to help me. "Welcome to your new home," he says. I take his hand, still cold from the champagne bottle, and step out of the limo. It feels like a dream, getting out in such a beautiful estate. It would be the perfect evening if the circumstances were different. As it stands, my beautiful dream is becoming more like a nightmare with every passing hour. Victor leads me into his mansion, passing through 2 towering oak doors with gold lion heads as knockers on the front. Everything here screams opulence, from the intricately carved railings to the jasmine vines that creep up the front of the house. The sweet floral smell hits me as I walk in after Victor, but it's quickly replaced by a crisp linen smell and the faintest hint of smoke. I can smell his cologne drifting behind him as well, and I quicken my pace to be closer to it. I'm drawn to his scent, even if I hate him. Inside, I quickly become distracted by my surroundings. The marble floors gleam under the chandeliers, and the walls are adorned with old oil paintings. It's worlds away from anything I've ever known, even though my dad is rich. Well, he was rich, or so I thought. His prior wealth doesn't compare to what Victor has. It's not even close. I try not to get too wrapped up in it, but the idea of marrying someone this rich does come as a bit of a relief to me. At least I won't be living in a trap house with a junkie who abuses me. Victor appears to have much more class than that. But even so, I can't forget that he's a dangerous criminal. He's already admitted to being in the Bratva, and that alone is unforgivable. I hold my chin up a little higher as we ascend a marble staircase up to the top floor. I'm winded by the time we reach it, but Victor doesn't seem the least bit out of breath. The man has stamina, I'll give him that much. "Our room is at the end of the hallway," he says, looking over his shoulder at me. "Tomorrow you'll have a new wardrobe. No offense, but jean shorts don't tend to fit in our community. I look down at my faded pair of cutoffs. They're cute, but I understand what he's saying and I'm not offended by it. Compared to his suit and mansion, I look like he just picked me up off the street. As we arrive at the end of the hallway, we arrive at a single red door with a silver handle. Victor's large hand encircles it, turning the knob slowly and opening it to reveal the master bedroom. The room is dominated by a large, canopied bed with black silk sheets that glisten under the soft glow of the lamps. The canopy drapes are a deep, rich red, just like the door, sweeping around the bed and splitting in the center to allow a person to crawl in. "This is our bedroom," Victor says, turning to face me, his blue eyes almost green in the yellow light. "We'll be sharing it from now on." I swallow hard, my heart racing. The reality of the situation crashes over me like a wave. This isn't just a marriage of convenience. Victor intends to claim every aspect of my life, including the most vulnerable and intimate moments I have. How can I defend myself from him while I'm sleeping? It would be impossible. But then another realization dawns on me, something even more powerful than the dread scratching at the inner walls of my stomach. He'll be just as vulnerable as I am when he's sleeping, and it only takes one swift movement across the throat to kill a man. I can't imagine myself doing something so horrible, but if I feel threatening, I shouldn't hesitate to retaliate against him. He's already threatened to kill my dad. There's no telling what else he will do. I fold my arms over my chest, as though to guard my soul from revealing what my bitter thoughts are. Victor, of course, can't see them. He's unbothered as he walks over to a dresser and shrugs off his suit jacket. "I sleep naked," he says casually, as if discussing the weather. "I hope that doesn't bother you." "And if it does?" I ask, taking a sharp breath as he begins unbuttoning his shirt. There's a mirror in front of him on the dresser, and his eyes catch mine in it. He smiles. "Then I guess you'll have to toughen up." "It's only a bit of skin." It's far more than skin, and that becomes blatantly obvious as he removes his shirt to reveal a perfect body, a tight six-pack, and a broad chest that's littered with tattoos. I hadn't realized he was so covered. He looks like a beast under his clothes. I try to suppress the stir in my belly as he turns to face me, gripping his shirt in his vascular hand. His veins pop in the low light, crawling up his arms like the jasmine vines outside the house. Why do all the terrible men have to be so hot? "I don't mind if you see me naked," he says, a smile hiding somewhere in his husky voice. "There's no reason to be shy. I'll undress right in front of you." He reaches for his belt buckle, and I turn away, my cheeks burning. "Do you expect me to do the same?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady as I listen to the clink of his belt. He chuckles softly. "Not unless you want to. You can undress in the dark if that makes you more comfortable." I hear his pants fall to the floor, and then the lights go out. "Let's go to bed, darling. I have to be up early tomorrow," he says, his voice traveling around me in the darkness as he makes his way to the bed. I can't see a thing, but that's probably for the better. I've already seen enough of his perfect body. It's frustrating and confusing, and I don't want to watch him undress again. I might not be able to look away next time. "Come to bed," he says from about 3 feet away from me. That's where he must be, waiting in bed, under those cool black silk sheets, his bare skin pressed into the mattress. My heart pounds in my chest as I fumble with my clothes, the cool air of the room teasing my skin as I strip down to my underwear. Every sound feels amplified, and I'm acutely aware of Victor's presence. I'm afraid he can see me in the dark, like a panther in the woods. I undo my bra and drop it onto the floor, following it with my panties. They're warm against my cold feet, giving me a moment of false comfort before a slight draft causes me to shiver. It's too cold in here. Maybe he did that on purpose to get me to sleep closer to him, but I wouldn't do it. I'd rather freeze to death than enjoy the feeling of his bare skin against mine. I consider my options. It's a bit too late to make a run for it, but I don't feel drawn to leave the room anyway. I feel drawn to the bed, which concerns me because I'm not even sleepy. It's far too early to be going to bed. It only just got dark outside. "Do you usually go to bed this early?" I ask, covering myself with my arm as I take a careful step toward the bed. It depends. Sometimes I don't sleep at all, but how can I pass up the opportunity when I have such a lovely woman in my bed tonight? He replies. I laugh through my nose. So, this is all a ploy to get me into your bed. I feel like there are easier ways to get a woman to have sex with you. Threatening to kill her dad and then forcing her to marry you is an interesting choice. You, father, owed me money, and without it, I had to take the next most valuable thing, he replies calmly. I take another step toward the bed, then stop, considering his words. You value money over me? Over everything. Sounds like a miserable way to live, I reply. Why don't you come here and we can be miserable together? I'm not going to bite. At least not yet. We might wait until marriage for that. He says it like a joke, but I know it's not. The moment he can sink his teeth into me, he will, and I'll be helpless to escape him. He's like a great white shark, and I'm just a little fish in an ocean that's far too big for her. I find bravery somewhere deep inside me and slip beneath the silk sheets, the fabric cool and smooth against my bare skin. My body betrays me, a surge of arousal coursing through me despite the fear and anger simmering beneath the surface. I can hear Victor moving on the other side of the bed, and my mind races with conflicting thoughts. The bed dips slightly as he joins me, and I hold my breath, my body tense. The warmth of his skin radiates through the sheets, and I fight the urge to move closer, to seek comfort in the heat of his body. I told myself I wouldn't, and I'm holding myself to that promise. I can't give in on the first day. Nor can I give in on the second, or the third, or ever. Good night, Sage, Victor mumbles, his voice low as he turns over to his side. Night, I whisper back, my voice barely even a whisper. I can't tell him to have a good night. I'd much rather him die in his sleep, so I can be done with this disaster. I don't have the guts to kill him myself, at least not tonight. I just lie here in the dark, my senses heightened, every atom in my body vibrating so hard that it feels like I'm buzzing. Sleep comes slowly, but it does come. I'm exhausted from the adrenaline, unwilling to force myself to stay up longer than I need to. Once I hear the sound of Victor's breathing slow, and I'm certain he's asleep, I allow myself to join him. Chapter 4. Sage. I wake up quickly, the events of the previous night flooding back into my mind like a bad dream. I turn over, expecting to see Victor beside me, but the bed is empty. The sheets are cool where his body once lay. The morning light filters through the heavy drapes, casting a soft glow across the room. It's nothing like a nightmare in here anymore. It's like I've woken up in a 5-star luxury hotel. I sit up, pulling the sheets up to my neck as I look around the room. The sense of dread from the night before lingers, but there's also a strange, unsettling calm. Victor isn't here. I can't even smell his cologne. I wonder why he would leave me here alone, but I don't dwell on it. I take the opportunity to get out of bed and search for my clothes. I'd rather not still be in the nude when he inevitably returns. I'm pretty sure he kept his hands off me last night, but I feel like that won't last. He's a hungry beast, and I must look like a delicious snack to him. Why else would he have chosen me as his new wife? It makes me wonder how many other women have experienced this before me. How many innocent women have been dragged into his den with the promise of marriage, only to be cast aside when he finds his next victim. I can't be the first. This feels too easy for him, too casual. He walked into my house like he owned it, and took me like it was nothing to him. He's psychotic, and being physically attractive doesn't make up for it. Not even close. As I scan the floor, my heart beating fast and my thoughts racing again, I realize that the clothes I left aren't there anymore. Not only that, but I hear footsteps coming down the hallway. I jump back, grabbing the sheets off the bed and wrapping myself in the slippery silk. I hold my breath as the footsteps stop in front of the door for a moment, and then there's a light knock. Before I can answer, the door opens, and I'm surprised to see a woman step inside. She's dressed in a loose blue dress and is carrying a tray with a stack of clothes on one side and an arrangement of breakfast food on the other. Her expression is polite but distant as she floats across the room and sets the tray down on the bedside table. "Good morning, Miss Sage," she says, her voice smooth and professional. "Mr. Victor asked me to bring you breakfast and some fresh clothes. He had to leave early for a meeting, but he'll be back soon." "Oh," I reply, not knowing what else to say. "Well, thank you." "You're welcome," she replies with a smile that screams customer service. I doubt it's genuine. "Is there anything else I can get for you?" "Yes, actually," I say, still rooted to the same spot in the middle of the room. I lift my chin up, trying to sound confident. "I'm being held prisoner, and I'd like you to call the police." She stares at me for a moment, her expression unreadable, and then she smiles again. "You have a delightful sense of humor, Miss Sage. I will let Mr. Victor know that you're waiting for him when he comes home." With those words, she turns around and leaves the room. I hear a loud click of the door being locked, and then her light footsteps back down the hallway. I curse under my breath. She almost seemed normal, but now I'm certain she's in on this with Victor. Nobody is going to take my side and believe that I'm a victim, and if they do, they'll simply not care. I drop the sheets from my body, leaving them on the floor as I walk over to the bedside table. The stack of clothes waiting for me isn't the same ones that I wore here. When I put my hand on them, they feel unbelievably soft and well-constructed. These must be expensive. Unfolding the dress on the top of the stack, I realize that it's from a very prestigious brand, one that's only financially viable if you're rolling in more money than you know what to do with. I guess the wealth Victor displays isn't a carefully crafted illusion. He really is filthy rich. I slip the dress over my head, reveling in the way the fabric feels against my skin. The dress is beautiful, a deep emerald green that feels much more saturated than anything I've ever worn. It fits me perfectly, hugging my curves in all the right places, but it's also more revealing than I'm used to. The neckline plunges a bit too low for my comfort, and the hemline sits higher on my thigh than I would normally wear. I glance at myself in the mirror, turning from side to side. There's no denying that I look attractive in this dress, but I worry about the implications. Victor will see me in this and want me even more. The thought sends goosebumps down my legs, a mix of fear and unwanted excitement. I run my hands down the sides of the dress, smoothing out the fabric. It's impossible not to feel a bit more confident, a bit more powerful in such a beautiful outfit, but I know that my confidence is fragile, easily shattered by Victor's looming presence. Pushing my worries aside for a moment, I turn my attention to the breakfast tray. The smell of freshly brewed coffee makes my stomach growl. I hadn't realized how hungry I am until now. I sit down on the side of the bed, taking a sip of the coffee and savoring the rich, dark flavor. I always preferred black coffee, and Victor seems to know that. There isn't any cream on the tray, just a bowl of fresh fruit and a piece of bread with butter already spread across it. I eat like I'm starving, shoveling everything into my mouth because it tastes so good. I've never had anything quite so delicious. Do rich people get tired of eating like this? If not, how do so many of they stay so slim? I suppose they can afford the best trainers and doctors, so calories might be an afterthought. Imagine being able to eat however much you wanted and never gaining a pound. As I finish off my breakfast, my mind returns to Victor. Will he be pleased to see me in these new clothes? Will he take it as a sign that I'm submitting to his wicked rules? The thought makes my stomach churn, but I push it away, focusing on the simple pleasures that I can gain from this awful experience. I close my eyes for a moment, wishing this would all go away, but when I open them, the opposite comes true. My worst nightmare is standing right in front of me. I nearly fall backward onto the bed. "Victor, how did you get in here?" "Like everyone else." "I floated through the wall," he replies with a cheeky grin. I shake my head, unsure if this is real. "He came in so quietly that I'm suspicious he might actually be a ghost. My eyes were only shut for a moment," I say. "Don't do that again. It's creepy." "I've been working on my stealth," he replies, still smiling. "Why?" I ask, folding my arms over my chest as his eyes drift down to my cleavage. "And don't look at me like that. It's also creepy." Well, that's exactly why, he says, the smile dropping off his face in an instant. I'm a creep, as you say. That's what creeps do, isn't it? But I wouldn't expect you to care about the real reason for what I do. That must not interest you at all. He's trying to get me to feel sorry for him, which is laughable, considering he's the cause of my misery. There's no guilt buried under my distaste for him, no glimmer of empathy for a man who only wants to use me. I'm not falling for your manipulation, I say, standing up from the bed. I feel like I'm still sitting down, though, because of how tall he is. He shrugs, turning away from me and walking over to the dresser near the door. There's no manipulation happening here, darling. I was going to offer you a little peeks into my life, some honesty in my world of smoke and shadows, but that's something you're not interested in, so I won't force it on you. I sigh. What are you talking about? He spins around suddenly, another cheeky smile on his face. Come with me tonight. I want to show you one of my casinos. I'll even let you toss the dice, if you can behave yourself. His proposal is insensitive, considering my dad almost lost his life to his gambling problem. Maybe he's just trying to rub it into my face, to show me how powerful he is based on how many lives he's ruined. Then again, I should be collecting information about my new enemy. It's unwise to separate myself from him to the point where I don't know who he is and how he thinks. I have to get into his head if I'm ever going to get the upper hand on him. I lower my hand from my dress, letting him catch a glimpse of the soft skin that comes together in an alluring crevice on my chest. It's just about the only thing that I have that holds any power over him. I think I might join you, if you behave, I say, trying to fake a suggestive smile, but so far you've not been very good to me. He raises an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. Have I not been? I had food and clothes brought to you. I let you sleep in, when I could have woken you up when I got up, which was 3 a.m, I might add. I need more than that, I reply, playing hard to get. Maybe a few $1 million and a long vacation. He snaps his fingers. Anything is yours. After the wedding, our honeymoon can be as long as your sweet little heart desires. I prefer solo vacations. Well, that I can't grant you. It's no longer safe for you out there in the world. Demons will chew you up and spit you out like old gum, he says, turning back to the dresser and opening it. Demons? I ask doubtfully, thinking that he's the only demon I've met in my life. He fishes something out of the drawer, holding it tightly in his hand without showing me. He turns around, his eyes flashing with a devilish blue tinge. Yes, darling, demons. When you're the wife of the most powerful man in the city, they want you more than anything, which is why you can never go out alone again. I look at his hand, wondering what he's holding. No, what he's hiding from me. He's definitely hiding it. His eyes smile at me, but his face remains stagnant. I look from his hand to his face again, shaking my head. I'm not your wife. I'm not even your fiancée yet, so let's save all the dramatic demon talk for a later date. I can take care of myself. He lifts up his hand, and as he does so, begins to lower himself to the ground, bending his knee. I think it's time we change that, Sage, don't you?
Chapter 5. Victor. I bought the biggest diamond they had for her. I wanted to see the look on her face when she realized that she wasn't just marrying the most powerful man in the city, but also the richest. But maybe she doesn't care about money as much as all the other women I've met, because she doesn't react the way I expected her to. She frowns, stepping back and shaking her head. Victor, what are you doing? She asks, her voice dry and scratchy. Asking you to marry me, I say, keeping my voice steady despite the nerves that are building in my stomach. This is too quick, she says, her voice dying in her slender throat. I stand up, blood rushing to my head. Then I won't ask, Sage. I will demand that you marry me. She swallows hard, looking from me to the ring several times. I didn't think you were that serious, she admits. Why are you doing this to me? She clearly hates me and everything I brought upon her, but I can't allow myself to get offended by it. She will learn her place, eventually. She can't reject me for the rest of her life. You will understand eventually, I hope, I say, pulling the ring from the box and taking a step toward her. For now, I want you to do as we agreed. You will say yes." I see tears in her eyes, but I don't allow them to move me. Maybe I'm a monster, but that's always been expected of me as a Bratva boss. People want me to be evil, and I have accepted this role as a means of not just surviving, but thriving. "Hold out your hand," I demand, thrusting the ring out to Sage. She lifts her hand slowly, her fingers trembling. I take her hand firmly, feeling the heat of her soft skin. I'm always amazed by how soft she is, how delicate and perfect her body is. It took everything in me last night not to claim her, but it wouldn't be right. Not yet. Not now. I want her to give herself to me and have my babies, and I always get what I want in the end. I slide the ring onto her slender finger, the diamond catching the light and casting tiny rainbows across her awestruck face. She stares at it, her expression a mixture of disbelief and resignation. "There," I say, my voice softer now. "It's done. You're mine." She looks up at me, her eyes drier now than they were before. "I never had a choice, did I?" I shake my head. "No, you didn't. But that doesn't mean this has to be a prison for you, Sage. I can give you everything you've ever wanted, wealth, power, security. All you have to do is accept it." She pulls her hand away, the fingers on her other hand brushing against the large diamond like she still can't believe it's real. "Money is one thing, but what about love, Victor? Is that something you can give me?" Her question catches me off guard. Love. It's a concept that feels foreign, almost ridiculous in my world. I've built my empire on control, power, and fear, not on fragile emotions like love. I don't answer her question. Instead, I turn away, walking towards the window that overlooks the vast backyard. "We're going out tonight. I want to show you something, and then maybe you'll understand me a little more." She doesn't respond, but I hear the soft rustle of fabric as she moves toward me. I stare out at the sprawling gardens, my mind racing. Love. It's an emotion I can't afford, even with all the money I've amassed. Yet Sage's words linger, unsettling me in a way I hadn't anticipated. After a few moments, she speaks again, her voice hesitant. "Where are we going?" "To the casino." I turn back to face her, my eyes traveling over her perfect body. The dress I bought fits her perfectly, accentuating her beauty in a way that makes something move between my legs. She's not just beautiful, she's sexy. "You'll see," I say, diverting my eyes before I'm tempted to sin. "Just trust me." She sighs. "I guess I don't have a choice, just like before. Just like with everything. You may wander the estate as much as you like, but if I catch you trying to escape, there will be consequences," I say, trying to offer a healthy compromise. "Thanks," she mutters. "Is that why you locked me in the bedroom?" I shrug. "I didn't lock you in. I left the door unlocked, but my maid, Lydia, decided that you should be locked in because of how you behaved when she came to bring you the food and clothes. I thought she might be able to help me, but apparently nobody wants to do that anymore. Even my own father betrayed me." "Life is tough," I reply, feeling a slight annoyance that she thinks she has the bad end of this deal. If she understood what I've been through in life, maybe she wouldn't be so quick to dismiss the world I've brought her into. I could have just as easily killed her worthless father in front of her and claimed her in his office, but I spared her. That's far better than what I witnessed the Bratva do to my family when I was a child. But I don't do sob stories. I blocked out most of my past, refusing to acknowledge the weakness that comes from accepting trauma. I'm stronger than my experiences. I even think I might be a better man because of them, but most people would just consider me to be messed up beyond help. Fair enough. I'm not going to argue with people who only have a fraction of my wealth and none of the power. They wouldn't begin to understand me, even if they could see inside my head. I expect the same from Sage, which is why I don't try to convince her of anything. I just leave her in the room without locking the door, going downstairs to read in the lounge and smoke a cigar. Sage doesn't come down for several hours, but when she does, I can hear her creeping around the house, scoping the place out like a scared cat trying to understand her new surroundings. It's nice knowing she's around without really having to interact. Just having another person in this giant house makes me feel better. Lydia isn't here all that often, and she doesn't stay long when she is. Sage doesn't have that choice. She can't come and go freely, and as my new fiancée, the truth is that she never will. Her previous life is over. Marrying me has put her in danger for the rest of her life, but one day she'll get used to it. I know I did. And plus, she's young, much younger than I am, which is why she's the ideal candidate to carry my heir. She'll be around much longer than I will, even when our child an adult and able to take over my role as leader. My retirement is hinged in the fact that I reproduce. Without a child, I'll be at this until my bones break and the skin on my hands peels off. Too many people are dependent on me to do anything but work myself to death if I don't pass the role down to my future son, assuming that we have a son. If not, I don't mind putting as many babies in Sage as it takes. The idea of getting her pregnant over and over awakens something inside of me that's impossible to tuck back into my gut. I can already imagine her belly swelling over time as she carries our baby, and it does something unexplainable to me. I find myself staring at the pages of the book in my hand, unable to understand a single word while my eyes go over the same line multiple times. I'm only broken out of my daze when I hear Sage's soft voice from the archway to the lounge. Do you have a second? She asks. I look up from my book, closing it suddenly with one hand. I have all the time in the world for you, darling. She rolls her eyes. I'm just hungry. You don't have to be so theatric. Life wouldn't be fun otherwise, I reply as I rise from the sofa. Since you're already dressed so nicely, I think we should go out early. There's a pair of heels that will match your dress. You will find them in the closet by the front door. Please put them on, and I will join you shortly. Her expression changes for a split second, a half-hearted look of reluctance, but her hunger overrides it. It's much like the way that my hunger for her overrides her rebellious nature. I'm willing to put up with it if it means claiming her as my treasure. I wash my face and change my tie before we leave to match her dress. She's waiting by the front door, her arms nervously pinned to her sides. The limo is already waiting, its engine purring softly as we step outside. I open the door for her, and she slides in, her movements graceful even though she's still stiff from the nerves. As the car pulls away, I lean back in my seat, studying her body. She looks out the window, her expression thoughtful and distant. I wonder what's going through her mind, what she thinks of this twisted fairy tale she's been thrust into. The city lights blur past as we drive, and I reach over, taking her hand in mine. She tenses but doesn't pull away. Sage, I say, my voice low. This life is different than what you're used to. Try to keep an open mind this afternoon and evening, even if you see a thing or two that you don't quite like. If you're a good girl, we'll have fun. She turns to look at me, frowning but in a different way than she usually does. This time it appears as though she's trying to figure me out, like she actually wants to trust me, but she doesn't know enough about me to do so. I've always been a good girl, she says softly. I'm afraid you're going to make me bad. That's what worries me the most about all this. I can't change you, so I'm going to be the one who changes. The limo slows as we approach our destination, and I squeeze her hand gently. You're going to change, that's right. But it's not going to be how you think, Sage. You will gain a new perspective on things, and you will be able to see the world in a clearer way. An evil way, she mutters, pulling her hand out of mine. I ignore her resistance, because I know I'm starting to get through to her. She will forget about her old life eventually, and then she will truly be mine. Until then, I have to keep a level head. No spankings until she's ready. The limo door opens once we come to a stop, and I step out first, holding my hand out for her to take. Even after pulling away before, she takes my hand, straightening her dress as she steps out in front of the casino with me. We enter the casino, the buzz of activity and the scent of cigar smoke enveloping us. People turn to look at us, familiar with me, but not the new women I have clinging to my elbow. They know I don't usually bring women in here. This is where it all happens, I say as we drift further back into the casino to a table that's been reserved for us. The power, the money, the control. It's all here, and now, so are you. She looks up at me, her expression a mix of awe and slight concern. And what am I supposed to do? Eat something first, I say, pulling a chair out for her. Then watch, learn, and when the time comes, play the game. Because now, Sage, you're a part of it too.
Chapter 6. Sage. I always thought of casinos as being like bowling alleys, with cheap, overpriced food and tons of alcohol to take your mind off the fact that you're losing. Victor's casino, however, is the epitome of luxury and class. Everything is covered in either velvet glass, enamel, or polished metal. Instead of a moldy, stale smell like I'm used to from seedy places, there's a pleasant aroma of rose petals and leather, mixed in with cigar smoke and expensive perfumes. I sit down on the chair Victor has pulled out for me, feeling the coolness of the velvet cushion beneath me through my thin dress. Victor takes the seat across from me, his foot brushing against mine as he settles in. The contact is brief, but it's enough to send a jolt of excitement through me. My heart beats a little faster now. A waitress in a small cocktail dress approaches our table only a moment after we've sat down, carrying a silver tray with 2 flutes of champagne on it. She sets them down in front of us, her eyes flicking between me and Victor with a knowing smile. "Compliments of the house," she says, pulling her words out like hot taffy before disappearing back into the crowd. I have to wonder what she's thinking. Obviously, she knows who Victor is. Everyone here does, but nobody know who I am. I'm just a woman in a silky green dress with her shoulders drawn in, and her eyes on her lap as the man across from her picks up his glass with the utmost confidence. The juxtaposition suggests that I'm not merely an escort that he's brought in for a fun night of gambling. I'm clearly not comfortable here, but I don't know which I'd prefer. The stress squirming around in my stomach is enough for me to reach for my glass, taking a sip of the champagne, savoring the crisp, light taste. Victor watches me, his gaze intense and unwavering. "Do you like it?" "It's delicious," I reply, my voice a bit unsteady. He reaches over, his fingers lightly brushing against my wrist. "Good. Tonight, I want you to enjoy yourself, watch the games, get into the moment, and remember that this is your world now. You're just as much part of the bratva as I am." I watch his lips when he talks, unable to meet him in the eye, but somehow that makes things worse. I can practically taste the champagne on his mouth, the coolness of his lips that would arrive just before the heat of his wicked tongue. The heat in my belly becomes much warmer, and the sweat between my thighs causes my skin to stick together. I part my legs slightly, trying to cool off, but it's too hot in here to get cool without taking my clothes off. A current hums through the air, the tension rising as Victor's foot knocks against mine again. He smiles when he does it, a subtle twitch of his lips that drives me crazy. I drink the rest of my champagne without saying a word. Careful, the plate is hot. The waitress is back again, laying down a white plate in front of me. I lean back, eyeing the mouth-watering steak and roasted vegetables. It's going to be difficult to eat something this good like a lady, considering how hungry I am. I grab a fork, thanking the waitress as I dig into the food. Maybe it's just the hunger, but I swear this is the best steak I've had in my life. I normally don't eat out because I feel like I can make better food at home, but I've just been proven wrong. As I eat, I'm acutely aware of Victor's presence across from me, his icy gaze burning into me. He never stops looking at me. I feel like an animal in a cage for his amusement, only he doesn't smile that often. When he does, there's no kindness on his face either. I'm eager to find a new distraction, finishing up my food quickly and dabbing my lips on the black napkin beside my plate. I look up at Victor, my eyes moving to his mouth again. "I'm finished." "So I see," he says, his voice deep and calm. "Time for a little game of roulette, perhaps." I nod, even though I've never played before. That sounds great. Victor rises, and I follow him, hiding in his large shadow as he drifts through the crowded casino. There's twice as many people here as when we first arrived, and it only seems to be getting busier. There aren't any clocks anywhere, so I don't have a clue what time it is, but it can't be very late. If this is what it's like in the early evening, I can only imagine how it gets later into the night. I settle into a chair beside Victor at the roulette table, watching a small ball spin around a circular disc in the middle. It's marked with red and black alternating colors, and each one has a white number on it. Eventually, the ball lands on a red 32, and everyone at the table lets out a groan except for one man in a pinstripe suit. He just smiles as chips are pushed toward him by the roulette croupier. "Take some of these and place them on your lucky number," Victor whispers to me, reaching into his suit jacket and retrieving a stack of plastic chips. "Any number, or if you have several, put a chip on a few of them. Whatever you like. You can also just put them on red or black. That's close to a 50-50 chance." I take the chips from him, feeling their weight in my hand. Several people have already placed chips on the table, different colors than ours, and the croupier appears to be waiting for us. I have no clue what to do, so I just dump all chips on black and look to Victor for approval. "Daring," he says with a note of amusement. I reach for the chips to take them off the table, but he catches my arm, pulling it away as the ball rolls loose on the wheel. It jumps over a few numbers, clattering along until it finally lands on a black number 6. "You won," Victor says with a smile, putting his hand on my shoulder and squeezing it. "Sure, I've won, but what have I won? I have no clue how this works." A stack of chips is pushed toward me, and I take them, feeling the weight in my hand. There are nearly twice as many as when I started. "How much is this?" I ask Victor. "Well, you bet $100,000, so that would be double. $200,000. I blink a few times as I try to figure out if he's joking. "You're kidding me." "No, I'm not," he says, taking the chips from my hand and putting them on the table again. "How about double or nothing?" "That's crazy," I exclaim, but the ball is already rolling again. I watch the roulette wheel with wide eyes, taking in every millisecond as it passes by, focusing so hard on the wheel that I nearly fall over onto the table. The ball bounces in on the number 7. I look to see where Victor put his chips. Number 7. "How much is that?" I ask, excitement building in my voice. "How much did you win? Was that double?" 35 times 200,000 actually. "I guess that's 7 million, he replies calmly, taking the large pile of chips and moving it toward me. "You can play with these. Have fun." I can hardly believe it, but other people are smiling and clapping. He must have won a lot of money, but how can he take such an insane risk like that? Doesn't he know that the odds are stacked against him? But it is his casino, after all. Does it even matter if he loses? "Do you play like this often?" I ask, sitting out the next round as the ball rolls again. I'm more interested in learning more about how Victor functions than gambling. If I really am holding $7 million worth of chips in my hands, why bother gambling ever again? This is more money than most people even see in their life. Victor's hand finds its way to my knee, his touch light, but possessive. I come here every now and again, but the real joy isn't in making money. I enjoy the thrill, the possibility of losing. He squeezes my knee, then moves his hand up my dress, touching my thigh much higher than I expected him to. My entire body stiffens, my heart hammering in my chest so loud I can barely hear myself speak. "Do you ever really lose if you own the place?" He shrugs, moving his hand an inch higher. His fingers burn hot against my skin, and I feel self-conscious that he'll discover how much I like it. His fingers trace slow, deliberate circles on my skin, sending more waves of heat through me. "Victor," I whisper, trying to keep my voice steady. "What are you doing?" He turns to me, his eyes dark and smoldering. "Just reminding you who you belong to." His words send a thrill of both fear and excitement through me. I know I should pull away, should assert my independence, but the truth is, I'm drawn to him. There's a dangerous allure to Victor, a magnetism that I can't resist. "How about we make a bet?" he suggests, finally pulling his hand away. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "A bet? What kind of bet?" I reach for the pile of chips, but he stops me. "Not that kind of bet," he says. "Let's do this. You are going to get a chance to free yourself from this mess, to restore everything back to normal. I will give your father his business and his house back. Everything he has lost will be returned to him, and that includes his daughter." My freedom, I say, knowing it's too good to be true. What are the other terms? What's on the other side of your coin? The devil dances in his eyes as he leans forward, champagne tainting his breath. The other side of the coin is you, darling. Your body, your soul, for eternity. I want you to have my babies, as many as I please. Are you up for the gamble? Gambling is what ruined my life in the first place, but I feel like the cards are stacked against me anyway. If I don't gamble, then I still lose. I have to marry this monster, and eventually he will claim me. I won't be able to resist him forever. On the other hand, my freedom is just a single bet away. Everything could go back to normal. Everything could be good again, and I can forget that Victor ever even existed. I take a deep breath, looking into Victor's icy eyes and nodding. I'll do it. If you want me, you're going to have to win me. That's my girl, he says, and something inside me dies. That little bit of reluctance I had left, that little wall that I had put up when I first met him. It's coming down, and I already know that he's won.
The next scene is too steamy to include on YouTube. You can listen to the complete unedited version with all steamy scenes included at bellakingbooks.com or by following the link in the description.
Chapter 8. Sage. Is this what I am now? I don't even know how to feel, or if I can feel anything anymore. I agreed to this after everything he did to me, and then I actually enjoyed it. I wanted him to do this to me, to use me and to fill me with his seed like I'm his toy. A functional toy, one that will give him the children he wants, but why did it have to be this way? Why couldn't he have found a woman on his own level and done this to her instead? Why me? I'm nobody, but now I appear to be everything to him. I look down at the giant diamond ring on my finger, wondering if it's worth it for all this. I mean, it's not like I didn't enjoy it, but I feel corrupted by Victor's touch, unable to look at myself the same way anymore. I feel like I've lost what made me the woman that I was, and now I don't know who Sage is anymore. I don't know anything, and it's making my head spin. My eyes return to the mirror in front of me, the one that shows me the new woman I'm destined to be. She hardly looks like me anymore. Her hair is drawn up in an intricate bun, with curls overflowing from the top, spiraling down to her bare shoulders. Her dress is white and decorated with lace. It's both elegant and little more revealing than I would have chosen, but Victor is behind that. I get the feeling he likes showing me off. He's proud of the woman he's stolen, and he wants everyone to know how lucky he is. It still doesn't make sense to me, but that's my life now, a senseless mess of emotions and sensations without a hint of an explanation. It makes much more sense to Victor than it does to me, but I still agreed to it. I agreed to help my father, despite his pathetic attitude. I agreed to marry a monster, and then I gambled the rest of my freedom away last night when I took a spin on Victor's roulette table. The rigged table. I know it was rigged, but I did it anyway, secretly hoping to lose so that I wouldn't feel responsible for giving my body to Victor. The sad part is, I still feel guilty, and now I'm even deeper in this hole than I was before. The woman in the mirror doesn't cry about her new life, though. She looks nervous, but not sad about it. She pulls her shoulders back and looks me in the eye, a subtle smile on her lips. And why wouldn't she smile when she's the woman who won? I lost, and she's here to take my place. I slam my palms down on the table, standing up so quickly that the blood rushes from my head and makes me dizzy. A few seconds pass before I feel like I'm not going to pass out. My feet move me from the table, and I begin pacing the room, trying to make sense of the whirlwind of emotions in my chest. My mind drifts back to last night, the way Victor looked at me, the way he touched me. There was something more than possessiveness in his eyes. There was need, raw and intense, just like mine. I hate that a part of me responded to it, that I wanted him just as fiercely. It's a dangerous game we're playing, and I'm not sure if I'm strong enough to win. He doesn't seem bothered by it. It's fun for him, but it's emotional turmoil for me. Why did I agree to this? Why did I think I could handle this? The ring on my finger feels heavy now, a reminder of the choices I've made, the life I'm now bound to. I feel trapped, yet there's a large part of me that's intrigued, that wants to see how far this can go, how deep our connection can get. He's playing me like a fool, but my heart wants to be played. When was the last time anyone has made me feel like this? All my previous relationships were bland at best. I stop in front of the mirror again, taking a deep breath. This is it. This is my life now. I have to find a way to live with it, to find my own strength within this chaos. Victor may have power over me, but I won't let him break me. I'll survive this, and maybe I'll even find a way to turn it to my advantage. The money is good. That's one thing, even though it's terribly materialistic. Oh, and then there's the sex. I suspect he will never make love to me like he should, but the way claims me is exciting and new. Going without a condom makes it feel even better, but I'm afraid that will get old once I become pregnant, and I face an entirely new challenge. I place a hand on my belly, looking at myself in the mirror and puffing out my stomach. I imagine what it will be like, carrying his child, knowing that I'm tied to him in the most intimate way possible. The thought is both terrifying and oddly comforting. I'm beginning to accept this new reality, to see the beauty in the chaos that Victor has brought into my life. I always thought about having children one day, but not like this. I'm not sure if it's the right way to go about it, if our precious babies will have a good life. They don't just need money. They need two good parents who love each other, and what Victor and I have is far from love. Lust, passion, hatred. But there's no love there. I'm not sure if I can love a monster, no matter how strong the butterflies in my stomach are when he holds me close.
Chapter 9. Victor. It's obvious that Sage is worried about what we've become. It was only supposed to be a marriage, but I've uncovered something that neither of us really expected. One night of passion, and the shackles that could tie me to her for life have been revealed. The sex was too good. I'd go so far as to call it the best I've ever had, and that worries me more than it worries her. She was always the one on the roller coaster, but now it feels like I've gotten on with her, and there's no way to get off until it's over. I feel things I wouldn't ever expect to feel. It's like the iron box around my heart has been unlocked, and my emotions are starting to seep out. I tried to stop myself from comforting her after we had sex, but I couldn't stand to see the look in her eyes. The fear of not knowing if what we did was right. The guilt that comes with enjoying something you want to hate. I've felt it too, though I could never tell her why. That guilt that creeps up in the back of your throat like acid reflux, impossible to ignore, but not nearly as powerful as the pleasure you've gained from doing something you know to be wrong. It's like the first time I pulled the trigger on another person. I remember it clearly, like it was yesterday. Pulling that trigger didn't bring my family back, but it made me feel like I had some control again, a way of being stronger than the people who made me feel weak. My mother, my sister, and my father will never return, but neither will the man who killed them in front of me. As to why he left me alive, I still don't know, but it was a mistake he wasn't able to make twice. Sometimes I feel like I should thank him for putting me on this path, but mostly I don't even think about it. The past can't be changed. The future is the only thing I have, and up until now it's been quite bleak. But Sage, she's going to change all that. She's already unlocked doors inside of me that probably should remain closed, but I like it. Just like she enjoyed the way I pounded her in the dark, dragging her down to my level with every beautiful wave of pleasure that rolled through her delicate body. I, too, enjoyed a blissful suffering that has befallen me. But when I kiss her again, I'm going to make sure she knows that it means we're unified forever. My perfect obsession, my lovely mistake, the mother to the heir of the Brafa. Sage is everything to me, and I'll never let her go. I can hardly keep a straight face as I straighten my tie in the mirror and slick back my hair. My lip keeps twitching, and I'm pretty sure one of the blood vessels in my eye has popped. Ivan is standing just a few feet away, watching me prepare for the wedding ceremony. It was supposed to be small, but things quickly got out of hand when Ivan started inviting guests, and now it seems we're going to have the entire city at the venue. He's my bodyguard, just as much as he is my assistant today. I turn to him, adjusting my pearl cufflinks, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on my shoulders like 1,000 pounds of steel. Is everything ready? I ask, my voice steady, masking the nervousness I feel inside. Ivan nods once, his face emotionless. Everything is set, sir. The guests are arriving, and Sage is preparing in her room. I take a deep breath, letting it out slowly. Good. Make sure there are no surprises. He grunts in acknowledgement, his eyes sweeping over me in the mirror. I know I can trust Ivan to handle the logistics, but the thought of Sage walking down the aisle, looking uncertain and possibly resentful, makes my chest tighten. I haven't seen her much since last night. I haven't been able to tell her what this means for us, only that we're getting married, and that's the end of it. Part of me wants her father to show up so I can have a distraction. I need to let out this awful feeling inside of me. This guilt. I want to turn it into anger and beat the living hell out of Mr. Thompson. I want him to try to play the hero and get put down once and for all, even in front of Sage. But all of this is just a silly fantasy. He doesn't know when or where the wedding will occur, and even if he did, he's too much of a coward to show his face. He betrayed Sage, and there's no coming back from that. I think she might even hate him more than she hates me. I'll be done in a moment, I say, studying myself a little more closely in the mirror. I can see the wrinkles that have started to appear on my face, deep ones that took a lot of stress to get there. They're not going anywhere now, but I do find myself wishing I was a few years younger. Maybe Sage would be more interested in me, but who's to say she doesn't like older men? She was obviously turned on by me last night. That was obvious by the sound she was making in the dark. I'm overthinking now, but that's because I have too much time. I'm not used to take this long off work, and I believe it's driving me insane. It's been years since I even took a weekend off. I look over at Ivan, who is still standing like a block of cement behind me. Can you go check on Sage? Make sure she has everything she needs. Ivan nods again and exits the room silently. I take a moment to compose myself, to push down the emotions threatening to surface. This is a business transaction as much as it is anything else, and I can't afford to let my feelings complicate things. It's time to be the man I know I am and marry Sage. It's for the better. It's for the bratva. I know this is the right thing to do. But even though it's right, I feel an odd swirling sensation in my stomach as I step out of the room. It could be nerves, but it's more like butterflies. My palms are sweaty too, which is unusual. I'm not normally this off. We ended up hosting the wedding at a very nice mansion just a few dozen miles from the one I own. It's not quite as large, but it fits as many people as one could dream of having at their special day. The reason I didn't want to have it at home was because I prefer not to reveal my address to everyone. Many people close to me know it, but it's far from public information. The house isn't even in my name. It's in my company's name, and it's technically a business asset. This one is also a business asset, a rental for only the richest people. I've heard that it's mostly used for expensive photo shoots and music videos, but the occasional wedding gets hosted here when the elites are ready to say their vows. I didn't think I'd ever be one of them. I mean, I knew that eventually I was supposed to get a woman pregnant to pass on the role of bratva boss, but I'm not like most other men. I'm not dying to stick my dick in anything with long legs and red lips. I'm particular about my women, which is why I chose Sage. It wasn't about her father so much as it was about the connection I felt when I first saw her. I knew that I had to get my hands on her, no matter the cost. Threatening Mr. Thompson's life was just another elaborate tactic to get her into my hands. It was planned. Rigged. Just like everything else in my life and business. The money, the debt, the roll of the dice. They're all rigged. Even the roulette wheel spin that finally got Sage to surrender to me. Rigged. I like it better that way. I'm not a loser. I make sure I'm always holding the winning hand or a smoking pistol. That's the way I play, and it's why I'm so filthy rich. I suppose that Sage will eventually discover this, if she hasn't already. She knows I'm crooked, but I think that's what intrigues her the most about me. If I was such a terrible person, I doubt she'd even give me the time of day. Regular guys always get passed up by beautiful women. They're not the ones tearing off their clothes and marrying them the next day on a whim. It's too brash for the regular Joe, but I'm far from regular. That's my talent. I'm screwed up in all the right ways. The mansion is buzzing with activity, the guests mingling and chatting, their voices a soft hum that grows louder as I approach the main hall. As I enter the main hall, all eyes turn to me, and for the first time since I was young, I feel small. I swallow hard, puffing out my chest and holding my head high as I walk to the altar. I want to have a few words with my security up there before the ceremony actually begins. The room is beautifully decorated with roses and lilies, their scent filling the air and relaxing me a bit as I make me way down the aisle. A string quartet plays softly in the corner, setting a serene, almost surreal atmosphere. It doesn't feel real. I realize I've never even been to a marriage before. I had Ivan set everything up because I have no clue where to begin. Suddenly, the panic sets in. Should I even be doing this? I was so certain a moment ago, so set in my ways that I didn't even think to prepare for it. What if Sage hates me forever? What if she's not even able to have my children? What if I'm infertile? The thoughts comes faster than I can get rid of them, making my head spin as I step up on the altar and place my hand on one of the security guards. I lean in, trying to steady my voice as I speak to him. Is everything good? I ask. It feels like I'm asking myself more than him. Everything is as it should be. Guest 1362 is drunk, but he will be escorted out if he causes a scene. We have someone on him already. I frown. Did Ivan manage to find over 1,000 people to invite to my wedding? Sure, the venue can accommodate them, but I hardly want that many eyes on me at once. I'm an introvert, as much as I try not to be. Ivan, on the other hand, doesn't seem to be one, which is odd, considering how little he speaks. I shift my weight to the other foot, scanning the expectant faces in the crowd as the tension in the room grows. Something is going to happen, but it'll be another 5 minutes before the ceremony actually starts. As I take my place at the altar, I can't help but glance towards the door, waiting for Sage to appear. The anticipation is almost unbearable, each second stretching out into an eternity. I know we still have more time to wait, but I feel like she's going to come through any second. My heart beats so hard that it eclipses the noise of the string quartet. I don't even know what they're playing anymore. All I know is that I'm about to see Sage, and she's going to stun me with her beauty like she always does. How will she look in a wedding dress? Will she be smiling? Will she glare at me, hating every second of this until it's over? Finally, the doors open, and she steps in, looking radiant in a flowing white gown. Her eyes meet mine, and for a moment everything else fades away. It's just the two of us, standing on the edge of something neither of us fully understands. The music changes, and all heads turn to her. She's the center of attention, the star of the show. I'm so used to be that person, the one everyone looks to when things get intense, but she's taken it from me. She's the most special one, even if she doesn't realize it. She walks down the aisle slowly, her movements graceful yet hesitant. Each step she takes brings her closer to me, to our future together. I can see the conflict in her eyes, the mixture of awe and determination, and it only makes me more certain of my decision. When she finally reaches me, I take her hand, feeling the tremor in her fingers. The officiant begins to speak, but his words are a blur. All I can focus on is Sage, standing before me, a symbol of everything I've fought for and everything I still have to conquer. As the ceremony progresses, I can see the tension slowly leaving her body. Her hand in mine becomes steadier, her gaze more intense when she looks in my eyes. Her expression is subtle, but I see that there's a smile starting to form on her lips. When it's time for the vows, I don't have any prepared. I was a fool not to at least come up with some small thing to say, so I'm forced to speak my heart on the spot. I clear my throat, looking down at her glowing eyes. She has her makeup done in such a beautiful way that it doesn't take away from her natural beauty. It accents it, lifting it up to new heights. I feel myself fall for her, and I question whether this could be love. Infatuation? Certainly, but there's something else there. Those butterflies again that I can't get rid of. I hate it. I want to punish her for it, to bend her over and spank her in front of everyone. I want to embarrass her and ruin the moment, but that's just the self-sabotaging boy in me throwing a tantrum. The one who felt weak as he watched his family get slaughtered in front of him. The boy who only knew strength through brutal violence. I wouldn't wish that kind of violence on poor, innocent Sage. Maybe her father deserves it for betraying his daughter, but that's all to my advantage. Other people's weakness becomes my strength, and there's plenty of that in the world right now. Enough to become filthy rich and claim the most beautiful woman I've ever laid eyes on. Sage. I begin after an awkward silence. Everyone in the crowd seems to be holding their breath, and even the music has stopped. I have to come up with something good, but all I can do is speak from my heart. I didn't even know I had one until I met Sage. You are an incredible woman, I begin, taking her hands in mine and squeezing them lightly. She smiles, and it seems genuine. I never thought I'd be here today, but now that I am, I know it's the right thing, I say. Just looking at you makes me feel like a new man. I know that our future together is going to be something incredible. My words feel lame, but Sage's smile widens. Either she's enjoying the fact that I'm nervous, or she actually likes what I have to say. I decide to have a little fun with my vows, switching them up to keep her from thinking I'm taking this too seriously. I remember when we first met. It was the epitome of romance. She gives me a look like she wants to roll her eyes, but the smile is still on her pretty mouth. I remember asking your father permission to marry you, and how happy he was to agree, I say. That part is true, but the reality is far from the cheerful implication. Sage shakes her head at me, a sparkle in her eyes. You need to stop, she mutters so that only I can hear it. I laugh. I will never stop expressing my love to you. She turns her head from me, trying to hide the pinkness in her cheeks as she blushes. Inside, I feel triumph. I don't know why it means so much to me to see her like this, but I need it. The greatest validation isn't having money or women at your feet. It's impressing the woman you're chasing, the one who you feel like you can't really have. But it does seem like I can have her now, like she doesn't hate me anymore. Maybe it's just an illusion, a mask she's put on to be able to endure this wedding, but if it is, it's a damn good one. With my vows finished, I hold my head high and the officiant turns to Sage, expecting her vows. To my surprise, she pulls a little crumpled paper from a hidden pocket in her dress, unraveling with shaking hands as everyone waits in silence. She wrote something for me. I feel even more guilty now for not having written something for her. Why is she so much better to me than I am to her, even when she has no reason to be?
Chapter 10. Sage. I considered running, maybe even throwing myself out the window to my death, but I wrote my vows instead. It's just confusing. I don't hate Victor anymore, even though I want to. I'm so attracted to him that it's making me feel crazy. I should want him dead for what he did to me. I should throw a wrench in his silly plans and make a big scene at the wedding, but I won't. My heart beats like I'm in love as my eyes struggle to focus on the sloppy words written on my little crinkled piece of paper. They keep getting blurrier, and I don't know why until I realize I'm crying. I'm not even sad. I don't know how I feel anymore, but it isn't sorrow. I'm somewhere between scared to death and obsessed with the thought of what is going to happen in the bedroom when everyone has gone home for the night. Last night, I realized, was just a taste of what's to come. A mere hint at what Victor is capable of. I wiped the tears away with the back of my hand, sucking in a sharp breath through my teeth before reading the vows I wrote. Victor. I begin, my voice steadying as I look at his confident face. I'll admit I didn't know what to think of you when we first met. There's laughter from the crowd, which makes me feel a little more confident. This doesn't have to be the heavy, intense ceremony I was making it out to be in my head. We can have a little fun with it. I smile. But you've grown on me. I'll admit there's a lot of things I didn't understand going into this, but I'm willing to learn and grow with you. Victor's icy eyes soften, and there's a look on his face I haven't seen from him before, like he's moved by my words. Maybe he's never heard anyone be kind to him. Maybe the beast needs someone like me to teach him how to be human. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I genuinely think this can be a new beginning for us. I have hope now, which is something I never had before. I take another deep breath, looking down at the paper. I was going to say more, but I think I'll leave it where it is. I just smile, putting the paper down by my side and looking out toward the crowd. I promise to do what's best for us, no matter what. When I turn back to Victor, his eyes have a glossy sheen to them. I could be the lights, and I'm certain he would blame it on them if I asked, but I think he's getting emotional. The officiant speaks again, but I can barely hear what he's saying. It's a dull murmur amidst the captivating energy that's radiating from Victor. My eyes lock onto his, he takes my hand, and he leans in to kiss me. I close my eyes, my heart jumping into my throat as his lips touch mine. I feel like I'm falling backward, but his hands around me, pulling me close to him as applause erupts from the crowd. I sink into him, losing my soul in his as we're bound by the vows of marriage. I still can't believe I'm his wife. It's like a dream that could turn to a nightmare at any moment. I see the dark clouds in the background, but they seem to be getting farther instead of moving in closer. The kiss lasts for longer than any before it, but when our lips separate, it feels like it wasn't enough. I need more of him, more of a promise that he won't leave me now that I belong to him. I need to be sure that he's losing his mind in the same way I am, but all I get is a smile as he takes my hand and turns toward the roaring applause. As we step down the altar and the music plays again, I feel lighter. This is a new beginning for me, and even though I knew my father wouldn't be here, I'm still glad he didn't somehow show up at the last minute. This is his fault, but I won't let him take it away from me. I've made the best of my fate, and I'm not going to let him disrupt my life any more than he already has. I swallow hard and hold my head up high, walking hand in hand with the most powerful man in the city. I'm his wife now, and I will be respected and feared in the same as he is. I'm not a pawn any longer. I'm powerful. But as my confidence swells, there's a sinking feeling in my stomach that grows stronger the further we walk to the double doors that lead out of the ceremonial hall. The music twists into a horrible crashing sound, and everyone goes silent. Stop this immediately. A deep voice bellows, and I recognize it to be my father's.
Chapter 11. Victor. I feel anger before anything else. I rarely do when things get ugly, but to have Sage's wretched excuse for a father crashing through the window and ruining my wedding day is something I can't move past so easily. I release Sage's hand, pushing her back into the arms of my security guard before going for my gun. I didn't want to have to kill Mr. Thompson, but I will if he's going to crash my wedding and cause a scene. He's made his choices. It's about time I make mine. Don't shoot him. I hear Sage's voice behind me, but I ignore her. I'm blinded by my rage, unable to exercise what little empathy I have left. I charge toward Mr. Thompson as two guards grab him, yanking his hands behind his back to leave him vulnerable to my fists. He isn't armed, which is both a mistake and a blessing for him. He won't be able to defend himself, but he also isn't a threat to anyone here, so he doesn't necessarily need to be shot on the spot. I start with a fist to his stomach. I'd love to scramble his face, but I have a habit of breaking people's skulls when I hit them. He could die from a single fist, and I'm certain Sage would throw a fit about it. She married me to save him. After all, if I kill him, she will feel betrayed. But he's the one betraying her right now, showing up to the wedding to play hero. I could have sworn I had managed to keep anyone from knowing where the venue was, but somehow he found us. I want answers before I end his miserable life. There's a rat among us, and he's going to tell me who. I realize as I pull my fist back again that everyone is staring at me. Beating a man senseless in front of my guests is far worse than what Mr. Thompson just did, so I drop my hand. I'm not trying to embarrass myself at my own wedding. Bring him downstairs. I grunt to my guards as he wheezes in their arms. He's limp, but obviously still alive. A blow that big gut of his isn't going to kill him. I spin around on my heels, ignoring the rolling murmurs from the crowd as I pass through it again to reach Sage. She's already in tears, her mascara running down her flushed cheeks like polluted rivers. Even though her father is the one responsible for this mess, I'm hit by a pang of guilt. This is her wedding too, usually one of the most special days in a woman's life, and I've made a scene out of it. Come, I mutter, grabbing her by the arm to lead her out. Let's put this behind us. She continues crying, not saying a word until we're out of the hall and behind closed doors, where our honeymoon suite turns into a battleground. Less than 5 minutes after our vows, and I'm already heading for divorce. Lovely. How could you do that? She shouts at me, throwing her fists down to her sides the moment the door closes. I sigh, the weight of the moment pulling the confidence out of my shoulders. I slump forward a bit as I sit down on the edge of the bed, thinking of a response. What can I say but I'm sorry? I didn't know that he'd be at the wedding. I specifically took precautions against it, I say. She shakes her head. Not enough, obviously. And then you went and pulled a gun on him. Were you going to kill him in front of everyone? I laugh through my nose. No. That would have been a bit extreme. You almost did it. Everyone saw you pull that gun, she says, using a napkin from the table to dab the tears from her eyes. It's a bit late for that now, but I wouldn't dare tell her. The last thing you want to do is nitpick an angry woman. I didn't shoot him, but I do think he deserved the punch to the gut. He tried to ruin our wedding, I say. She crosses her arms. You didn't have to do that either. What should I have done? She shrugs. Escorted him out. Your guards already had him. I shake my head. How do I know he wouldn't come back with a gun? The man has lost everything. Correction. You took everything from him. He didn't lose it on his own. I suppress a groan. I'm trying not to make her angry because I was hoping to have a nice time after the wedding, but it's becoming increasingly difficult not to. Having her try to defend her father is frustrating. She should realize he doesn't deserve her sympathy. While I'm massaging the wrinkles out of my forehead, Sage comes over and sits beside me. I'm surprised by this, seeing as she was furious at me just moments ago. She puts her hand on my arm and lowers her voice. I know this isn't how you wanted things to be, and I appreciate that you tried to keep him out of this. I don't know how to feel about him, honestly, but you have to understand that he's still my dad. I could hate him and still not want anything bad to happen to him. I guess I'm too heartless to understand. I grumble as my hands drop into my lap. You're not heartless, Victor. You just pretend to be, but you should consider dropping the act around me. I'm your wife now, after all. I look at her, frowning as I try to understand her intentions. She wants me to be soft and weak, but I'm not willing to go that far for anyone, even my wife. She's going to have to learn that about me. Weakness in my line of work can be fatal. My teeth clench, and I turn my head toward my lap again. What you saw today is as much heart as you're ever going to get out of me. You're lucky I didn't kill him. She lets out a long sigh. You're the lucky one, Victor. I only agreed to marry you on the premise that you'd leave him alone. I don't know what your plans are now, but it had better not involve harming him. That was an old agreement. He came in here and started a new one. It's too complicated for you to understand, but he's not leaving this house for a while, I reply. Too complicated? I'm not an idiot, Victor. It's bratva business. That's all. I wasn't calling you an idiot, but you're not informed about how things go here. She jumps up from the bed, her voice doubling in volume. Then, inform me. You can't possibly think I'll be fine with you keeping me in the dark my whole life. I'm part of your scheme now, and I deserve to know what's going on. She's right. But I don't like it. It means I'm the one who is wrong, and I can't afford to be making mistakes. I'll either have to deny it and put it to rest, or correct it quickly before she starts to doubt my leadership. I rise from the bed, trying to placate her with kinder words. Here's how things go in the Brava, darling. People try to kill you all the time. Money puts a bounty on your head, and crime attracts. Well, criminals. It's the perfect storm for a short life, if you're not careful. You think my dad wanted to kill you? She asks defensively. She's already jumping to conclusions, but I'm not done explaining things. No, but he wanted to crash the wedding, and he managed to find out where it was. Do you understand my concern now? There are people out there that would love to kill me, kidnap you, and bring down my entire Mafia empire. You think I've been cruel to you? You don't even know what those people would put you through. She shrinks a little bit inside herself, her mind wandering across the possibilities. I give her a moment to consider them before continuing. So, your dad has connection to people in my organization. I'm sure he made them while gambling at my casino, or else the problem could be even bigger. The point is, we're compromised, and I need to know who told him about where we would be today. That can't happen again, I explain. Okay, but he's still not a threat, she says quietly. No, I reply, stepping up to her. But whoever leaked information to him is, and they will pay dearly for their transgressions.
Chapter 12. Sage. The strength in his words is undeniable, and the implications are as clear as day. He's going to kill whoever told my dad about the wedding plans, but that's only after he gets the information out of my dad. Fortunately for him, that shouldn't be difficult. My dad won't suffer long before running his mouth. I wonder how many times being a complete pushover is going to save his life. He's already done this twice, and my sympathy for him is at an all-time low. Still, I can't stand the idea of Victor killing him over something like this. After all, he wasn't the threat. Whoever leaked the information was, and I don't have much empathy for Victor's crew. From what I've experienced, they're all a bunch of crooks. "You're leaving?" I ask, chasing after Victor as he walks toward the door. He looks over his shoulder at me, hand on the doorknob. "I won't be long." "Take me with you," I blurt. He shakes his head. "You don't want to see this, darling. It would spoil the mood." A bitter laugh escapes my mouth. "The mood has been spoiled, darling. If I'm going to be part of your world, I want to experience it firsthand. I'm not waiting on the sidelines for you to come back." "I'm going to hurt him," he warns. "You won't like it." I shrug. What's me being there going to change? Nothing. "Exactly," I say, pulling the ends of my wedding dress up and walking toward him. "I'd like to come with you." He narrows his eyes at me, but ultimately relents. "All right, but you need to change. I don't want to get blood on your dress." I know he's trying to get me to second-guess myself, but it's not going to work. Either I'm in this or I'm not, and after letting him wrap his hands around my neck yesterday and own my body entirely, I'm going to have to be in it. What other choice do I have? "What about your suit?" I ask as I strip down in front of him. His eyes immediately fall to my body, taking in the sight of me in my bridal lingerie before I can throw on a t-shirt and jeans. His hunger is palpable, lighting a fuse in me that's going to explode before the night is over. "Hello, suit?" I ask, covering my torso with a baggy gray t-shirt. He blinks a few times before looking up at my face again. "Oh, yeah, don't worry about that." I laugh as I jump into a pair of blue jeans. "You're going to interrogate him naked or something. Seems a little odd, but I wouldn't put it past you, considering how kinky you've turned out to be so far." He rolls his eyes, but there's a smile on his face. This is the type of banter he enjoys. He secretly needs someone to tease and defy him, maybe just so he can put them in their place later. My heart hammers in my chest at the thought of him doing that to me again. The casino closet was incredible, but how much further is he willing to go? How much more extreme can things get? "Let's go," Victor says, opening the door and nodding. "Our guests still think we're coming out to the reception. We need to be quick." "You think you can get an answer out of my dad that quickly?" I don't have to think. "I know," he mutters as we leave. He leads me down the hallway, taking sharp turns and not slowing down for a moment. He has incredible stamina, which I learned about last night when he hammered me into a state of pure euphoria. The problem is, I'm struggling to keep up with him, especially as he flies down a set of slippery marble stairs. "Can we slow down, maybe?" I gasp as we reach the bottom. "Almost there," he replies without looking back at me. I groan, which turns into a cough as my lungs start to burn. I should be in better shape, but I've always been more of a sit-in-bed and vegetate kind of girl instead of a gym rat. Victor has enough muscle for the both of us, but he hasn't offered to carry me yet. It'd be cute, but he's not exactly the cute type. He wants to be the big bad monster, and for now, I'm just going to have to let him. I'm sure he'll warm up eventually. It's wishful thinking, of course, but it's the only thing that gives me any hope for our future. I don't want to have children with a man who can't be soft when he need to be. Kids don't need to be yelled at and ordered around all the time. They need compassion. Is Victor capable of compassion? It doesn't seem that way as he barrels down a darkening hallway to where my father is being kept as a prisoner. And yet, something about his energy is intoxicating. It's wrong, but I really do feel attracted to him. The smell of his sweat, the anger on his tongue, and the way he claims me like it's his last day on earth. Victor flings open a door at the end of the hallway, snapping his fingers as I slink in after him. His assistant, Ivan, hands him a plastic hazmat suit, and he steps into it. It's terribly bright in the room, almost to the point where I can't see at all. I lean against the wall, blinking until I can see what's hanging in the center of it, bound in rope and dangling a foot off the floor. I try not to make eye contact with my father. He doesn't even look like he did when I left the house. His eyes are sunken, and there's something wild about them, like he's a hungry animal instead of a human being. He looks dangerous, but I suppose anyone would be if they were so critically compromised. Time to get some answers, Victor says, turning to me with a crinkly plastic sound. It'd be funny if it weren't so demented. I hope you're ready for this. You can go back to the room if you want. No, I say a little too quickly. I want to be here. He shrugs, grabbing a baseball bat from Ivan's meaty hands. Suit yourself, darling. My father lets out a guttural scream as Victor charges up to him, winding the bat back and letting it go with so much speed that it blurs in the air. The wood hits him in the stomach with a crunchy thud, probably breaking a few lower ribs and knocking the breath out of him. That one was just for fun, Victor says, looking over his shoulder at me. You understand the game now, I hope. We're all crazy here. I grit my teeth. He's putting on a show for me, trying to convince me that he's unhinged and dangerous. I know he is, but that doesn't mean he's going to be like that to me. I won't allow him to, but all bets are off when it comes to my father. Mr. Thompson, as Victor calls him. I think I'd prefer to call him that too, since no good father would sell his daughter to a mafia boss. I swallow hard as Victor pulls the bat back again, aiming for Mr. Thompson's face. My stomach drops, but the swing doesn't come yet. Tell me who you got the wedding information from, Victor growls. One chance or your face is going to be turned into pudding. Wait, Mr. Thompson croaks. Just give me a second. Is that Sage over there? I turn away from him, crossing my arms and hiding my face. I'm not ashamed of being on Victor's side, but I don't want to be emotionally manipulated by that man again. I'm done with him. He's not my father anymore. I don't know who he is, but he's not someone I want to empathize with. Don't worry about her, Victor says, and I hear a hint of anger in his voice. He hates Mr. Thompson so much, even more now that he tried to crash our wedding. I find myself feeling the same. Tell me who leaked the wedding plans, or you're dead. I won't give you another chance. Okay, you're nuts, but I get it. I just wanted to be a better man, you know, Mr. Thompson blurts. Okay, I'll tell you. It was Johnny from the casino. He knew about the wedding, and he told me. Not possible, Victor says, tapping the bat against his forehead. Do you think I'm stupid? Johnny is a nobody. He wasn't invited, and he wouldn't even know it was happening. But he told me. Tell the truth, Victor growls, winding the bat back again. I swear. He told me last night when I was there. He said that. Mr. Thompson's words are cut off by a sickening crack, and I know what has happened without even having to look. There's heat in my face and a tingle of electricity in my feet, but I don't feel sympathy. I don't really feel any emotion other than shock. I hate a liar, Victor grumbles as his bat clatters to the ground. Ivan, have the guys clean this mess up. The reception is cancelled. This party is no longer safe. Ivan grunts, and I hear Victor unzip his hazmat suit. His warm hand find my shoulder, the same hand that swung the bat into a man's face at full force. I shiver despite the heat of his touch, pulling my arms tighter around myself as I'm led out of the room. My breathing is short and shallow, but there's a weird calm feeling inside of me. The end of my previous life and the beginning of an entirely new one. It feels like this had to happen, despite how horrible it was. And I don't know what it makes me now. A monster like Victor? I just stood there and dissociated instead of stepping in to prevent this violence. Maybe I'm just as messed up as my husband is, and I'm only just now discovering it. Sage, darling, Victor says, pulling me close to him as we walk back down the hallway. I'm sorry it had to be this way. I really am. His warmth is fake, but it still feels good when I have nothing left. I hug him, finding comfort in the steady beat of his heart and the heat of his body as we continue walking.
Chapter 13. Victor. I jumped the gun by claiming Sage before the wedding, but perhaps it was for the best because we certainly won't be having any intimacy tonight. I'm on a mission to find Johnny and ask him what he knows about Mr. Thompson in the leak. You're going to go with Ivan back to the house, I say to Sage, trying to pry her off my torso. Her fingers only dig deeper into my ribs, and she makes an unhappy grunt. I don't want to be alone, she whines. You're safer at the house. Something isn't right, and I need to figure this out before it gets out of control, I reply, trying not to sound too harsh. She's definitely in shock after what I did to her father, but I did warn her about it. I want to help, she says, holding me so hard that it hurts. I wince, trying to pry her off. I didn't realize she was so strong, but it seems that she's not going anywhere unless I can convince her to return to the house with Ivan. Listen, darling. This is about your safety, I say softly. She laughs, and it's ice cold. I haven't heard a laugh like that from her before. I'll never be safe in the Brava. If you really cared about my safety, you would have brought me back to my father before the wedding, but you chose to keep this going. You chose me, and now you have to deal with me. And I will deal with you. Once I'm home. You need a good spanking, I reply, switching my tactics. I won't go easy on you. She grabs my hand, forcing me to spank her as she looks up at me. Do whatever you want to me, Victor. Punish me like the stupid girl you think I am, but I still want to go with you. Her words give me an ungodly rush more powerful than the drugs I used to take as a teenager to cope with my family's death. It's scary how intoxicating she can be when she wants to. Thankfully, she's only using it to tag along on my little adventure, and I'm thinking it's not worth the trouble trying to argue with her. Fine, I say, squeezing her and pulling her closer. If you want to go all in with the Bratva, so be it. Just don't start begging for a therapist when you get traumatized. I'm already traumatized, she mutters. Oh, darling, I reply, running my finger under her chin. You don't know trauma like I do. I don't leave her any time for a response. We continue moving down the hallway to the exit on the left side of the house, away from the crowd. The party will continue as usual, but we won't show up. Let our guests think what they want. But we have other matters to attend to. Ivan is already outside, standing beside the car that's going to take us to my casino. I know who Johnny is and where he works. He slinks around the blackjack tables but occasionally deals poker when someone else is absent. He'll be starting his shift this afternoon, but he's not going to make it to the table. We'll be ready for him once he arrives. Why would Johnny know anything about the wedding? I ask myself as I slide into the white leather seat in the back of the car. Sage slides in beside me, and Ivan goes to the front to drive us. Maybe he learned it from someone else, Sage offers. And your father came in and singled him out. Why? I ask. Security should have kept him out anyway. I doubt he even made it into the casino. How would he have even asked Johnny anything? Sounds like a question you should ask Johnny, she replies. And don't call him my father anymore. I don't like hearing it. What do you want me to call him? I ask, a little surprised. You used to call him Mr. Thompson. Sounds awfully formal. I reply. Thompson is fine, she says, annoyance building in her voice. Anything, just not my father. He's dead now anyway, right? I nod. You can't live long with a smashed head. That's gross, she says, wrinkling her nose at me as we pull away from the estate. Are you always so crass about everything? Relative to the other things I've seen and done, that's nowhere near crass, I say, putting my hand on her thigh. But you wanted to be involved in the business end of things instead of just enjoying the money and power. She purses her lips as she looks at me. Even when she's annoyed, she's still unbelievably beautiful. The mascara stains on her face don't change that at all. You might want to clean up the makeup before we get there, I say, pointing at her face. More crassness, she mutters, flipping down a mirror in the back seat. She gasps when she sees herself. Crap, you're right. I chuckle. I can't remember a time I was wrong. I'm ignoring you right now, Sage says as she tries to wipe the mascara off her cheeks with her thumb and a little saliva. She's trying not to smudge the rest of her makeup, but it's obviously difficult. You look beautiful, I say, which is a genuine compliment. She's the most beautiful woman I've ever met, but I'm not sure if she believes me yet. I hope I can prove it to her, eventually. She continues ignoring me, as she said she would, until her makeup smudges are less noticeable. She flips the mirror back up with a groan of annoyance, shaking her head. Good enough, I guess. Well, it isn't a fashion show. We might be killing someone else today, I say. She rolls her tongue under her lips, narrowing her eyes at me. Just how many people have you killed so far? I think you get off on it, honestly. I shrug. I've lost count. When was your first? I'm hit with a wave of memories at her question, many unwanted but still fresh, like they happened yesterday. I don't want to remember it, but there are even worse memories that haven't cropped up in conversation, so this isn't the worst thing she could be asking about. I take a sharp breath through my nose before answering her. It was a long time ago, but it feels like yesterday. You don't forget your first kill. She nods slowly, clasping her hands together as she senses the gravity of what I'm telling her. Do you hate me for killing your father? I mean, for killing Thompson? I ask. She shakes her head. How could I hate my husband? I laugh through my nose. Good answer, but I want you to be real with me. Do you hate me? She pauses for a moment, her eyes unfocused for a moment before she can answer. I don't know, she finally says. Does it matter? We're stuck together. Right, I reply, a bit disappointed. I liked her first answer a lot better. Well, I hated the man who killed my father, so maybe it's not the same feeling. But you might be able to understand anyway. At least we have something in common, she says with a smile, but it fades as she realizes she may have misspoken. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make light of your loss. I wave a dismissive hand as I pull a cigar from my jacket pocket. Don't worry about. I'm not sad anymore. I barely even remember my family. It feels like a whole different lifetime, like it wasn't my family at all. My mother, my sister, and my father all died at the same time, more or less. That's awful, she says, holding a hand to her heart. I'm really sorry. I smile at her as I light my cigar. You're sweet, you know that. She shakes her head. Hardly. I think so. She shrugs, waiting for me to get my cigar going before speaking again. I can tell she has more questions, probably more than I'm willing to answer. Why did it happen? Mafia business. I shrug. Bad people with even worse intentions. The leader of the group, a thug by the name of Vlad, decided my father's little bar was a threat to their chain of shady clubs throughout the city. They told him to pack up and move out, and when he didn't, they came and, well, did some terrible things. They killed him, she says softly. I grit my teeth. More than that, but I didn't feel like talking about it, I reply, puffing smoke into the car until it becomes hot and sour. You don't have to. But I feel like I should know about my husband, Sage says, putting her hand on my leg. You can ask me anything too, by the way. You're not ready for the truth. I can promise you that, I say as the car comes to a stop in front of my casino. Time to go. We can talk more tonight. I doubt you're going to be able to sleep after this.
Chapter 14. Sage. My descent into the underworld is happening faster than I had anticipated. Victor is ruthless, completely unwilling to hold back even though I'm with him. I chose this, I know, but the intensity of the day has put a weight in my chest that I don't think is going to go away for a long time, if ever. What I've witnessed can't be reversed. It stains my mind like the memories Victor is too afraid to tell me about. Maybe I'll end up like him after all is said and done, and that scares me more than anything else. When I look into his eyes, I see the sadness now. He's not just a cruel man, born without a heart. It was stolen from him when he was too young to understand the world, and it broke him permanently. I didn't think I would feel so bad for him, but it's clear now that his character is built on trauma and cruelty. The universe dealt him a bitter hand, and he did what he had to in order to turn around. I'm not suggesting that he's not responsible for the man he is or the terrible things he's done, but I understand why he's the way he is now. It makes me sad, but it also brings me closer to him, closer to my husband. I'm still getting used to that. Even though I wear a ring on my finger when I look at it, it feels like plastic. It's much too heavy to be, though, but that doesn't change that all of this is fake to me. Legally, we're married, but spiritually, we're miles apart. But it's one of those things where once you take the leap, you can't go back. Bridges have been burned, and people have already died for our union. There really is no return. Victor's hand slips into mine, giving me a bit of comfort as we walk into his casino. It's the same one we were at last night, only without many patrons because of the early hour. Things get busy later, but hopefully we'll be out by then. How long until Johnny arrives? I ask quietly as we pass one of the blackjack tables. 5 on the dot. He's late sometimes, but I don't tolerate it more than once a month, and he's already used up his late days, Victor replies. I look around for a clock before remembering that there are none. Time barely exists here for the gamblers, and without windows, it's impossible to tell how long you've been gambling without your own watch or phone. And I have neither. What time is it now? I ask, trying not to be annoying. I can tell that Victor is stressed by how much stiffer he is. I feel like I'm holding hands with a tree. It's 15 minutes until go time, he replies. Want to take a spin on the roulette wheel? I look up at him, curious why he would ask. I'm not sure. What's the stake this time? He smirks. A bullet with Johnny's name on it. Satan is calling my name and my guardian angel is nowhere to be found as I follow Victor to the roulette table. I never was a good girl. I skipped church on Sundays, and one time I shot a spitball straight into one of my teacher's eyes, but this goes beyond petty behavior. This is the big leagues, and I'm stuck in it like quicksand. Instead of fighting it like I should, I'm letting it take me under. It's mesmerizing, far different than I imagined it would be like. I don't know why losing control feels so good, but it does. It's like a blanket of shimmering velvet over my shoulders, protecting me from the frigid conditions on my descent to hell. I always thought it would be hot down here, but as it turns out, the devil is an ice king with blue eyes and tattoos on his throat. I think red is a good bet, Victor says, pulling out a revolver and placing it on the roulette table. The croupier doesn't even blink at the weapon. He must be used to seeing them from Victor. Anyone else would get pounced on by security. What's the bet, though? I ask, sitting down on a swiveling stool. Victor takes the gun, popping open the spinning chamber and pulling a bullet out. He places the brass nugget on the red square on the roulette table. This is for our little friend. If I win, I get to fire it. If you win, then you get to fire it, he says, his voice deep and surprisingly calm. Shouldn't it be the other way around? I ask, feeling a prickle of sweat on my hairline. You act like I want to shoot him. It might help you blow off some steam, he replies. I laugh, playing with one of the curls dangling from my bun. My hair is put up so tightly that it's starting to give me a headache. Maybe that would help you relax, but letting my hair down would be better for me. Let it down then, but I need your confirmation on the bet, he says. Do I have to? I ask, removing a clip from my bun. The woman who did it put so many in that it feels like it's going to take an hour to get them all out, but the payoff will be worth it. It'll be like taking my bra off after a long day out. You wanted to come here, so you're part of the game. You can't sit it out, Victor says, rolling the bullet back and forth over the red square with his pinky. So I want red, then I say. Or black. Or red. Isn't the game rigged anyway? He chuckles. Yes, it is. I'm glad you've realized that. Ultimately, it doesn't matter which color you choose because I will decide your fate when the ball drops. Why bother then? He puts his hand on my thigh and squeezes, putting butterflies in my stomach in an instant. I swallow hard, trying to push down the conflicting emotions swirling inside me, but it does little to help. Because he says, his voice a low rumble, it's not about the outcome. It's about the game itself. The tension, the thrill of it all. You know it's rigged. You know I get to make the choice, but you still don't know what my choice will be. I nod. though I'm not sure I fully understand. Or maybe I do, and that's what scares me the most. The power dynamic between us is a precarious balance, and with every passing day, I feel myself slipping further into his world, his influence. You choose. I don't even care what color. Red for you and black for me. It's fitting, he says, letting go of the bullet. The croupier spins the wheel and I watch the little white ball dance around the numbers, my heart pounding in sync with its erratic movements. Victor's grip tightens slightly and the ball bounces over the numbers. How would the croupier know what color Victor wants it to land on? Is it really rigged, or is he just playing games with my mind? I wish I could see into his head, but he's just as much of an enigma as when I first met him. He hides so much, but one day I'd like to know what's really going on in his mind. As the wheel slows, my eyes are locked onto the ball, hoping that it lands on black. When it finally does land, it's on red. I knew this would happen. He's really going to make me shoot someone today. Looks like you get to fire the shot, Victor says, his voice laced with satisfaction. I inhale deeply, letting it all out in a big gust. You'll be lucky if I don't turn the gun on you, I say, and part of me actually means it.
Chapter 15. Victor. Johnny is late, but he arrives nonetheless. His tardiness annoys me more than anything. How many times does someone have to be told to arrive on time before they get their act together? Don't I pay enough here? I stay at the roulette table with Sage, having a smoke and a drink with her as he's intercepted by my guards at the door. By the time he realizes he's in danger, he's already out of the public eyes and in a soundproof room in the basement. It's about that time, I say, standing up from my stool with a sigh. Age hasn't made my knees any better. They still ache when I sit too long. I envy the way Sage jumps up after me, her drink sloshing in her glass and her eyes wide with anticipation. They already got him, right? I nod. He should be downstairs. Are you ready for another interrogation? Are you kidding? 2 in one day? It's like Christmas morning, she says, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You'll be less emotionally attached to this one. At least. That's why I let you have the gun, I say as I take her hand. I've gotten into the habit of holding hands with her wherever we go. Previously I thought it to be a little too cute, but I've changed my mind. Sage's hand belongs in mine. You should let me rig the table at some point, she replies, flashing a winning smile. You might enjoy the thrill of losing for once. I enjoy playing. I always win. There's only so many times that can happen, she replies as we walk toward the elevator. Not in my world, Sage. Not in my world. The mood changes the second we step into the elevator. It's not meant to be used by anyone but official Bratva personnel, so it's not luxurious like the rest of the casino. The walls are thin sheet metal, and there's a singular tube light on the ceiling that flickers when I thumb the button for the basement floor. The air is stale here, growing colder as we descend. I feel the sweat in Sage's palm cool down and turn to a clamminess that reminds me of winter rain. She gets cold easily. She's already shivering as the doors roll open on the basement floor. One of my guards is waiting outside of a room with an iron door. It looks more like a prison now than a casino, but that's because we often have hold people until they're able to pay. It's like bonding out of jail. Sometimes, people don't have the money they gamble with, and they have to call family members to get them out. It's not my fault these people fall into this mess. They're addicted to easy money, women of the night, and drugs. Unfortunately, that comes at a cost. I'm pretty sure the average lifespan of any one of these gambling addicts is half what a regular person's would be. Sad, but it's not my problem. It's the reason I'm rich. All right, I say to Sage as we walk up to the iron door. I reach into my jacket and pull out the revolver again, popping open the chamber again and dumping the bullets out into my hand. Time for a little Russian roulette since you enjoy the game so much. More gambling, she says, trying to sound dry and sarcastic, but I catch a hint of fear there. The air between us is tense, and I know she's worried about pulling the trigger on a potentially innocent man. We'll question him first, I say, sliding a single bullet into one of the 6 slots. Depending on how he answers, we might end up taking a shot at him. I hold the gun out to Sage. Unless you want to put it to my head instead and pull the trigger on me right now. She takes the gun, pointing it at me and frowning. What makes you think I won't after what you've done to me? My guard tenses, his hand hovering over the gun on his waist, but I dismiss him with a wave. I'm a gambling man, but I always win. You won't kill me. She rolls her eyes. This could be the one time you're wrong. But it isn't, I reply with the utmost confidence. Your hand is too steady. If you were going to shoot me, I think you'd be shaking a little. She squints at me, but lowers the gun. I hate you right now. I chuckle. I know, but you can express yourself in the bedroom later. Right now we have business to attend to. I nod at my guard, and he opens the iron door to Johnny's cell. He's there on the floor, tied to a drain cover with orange nylon cords. His hands and feet are bound, but he can still wiggle a bit, as he does when I walk in with Sage. I'm sorry for being late, he blurts, his green eyes jumping between Sage and me. My car was having troubles. Really, you can check it. The engine light is still on. We're not interested in hearing about your car troubles, Johnny. I grumble. I want to know where you got the information about my wedding. He frowns, and then realization mixed with dread floods his face. He opens his mouth, but he's unable to speak. I nod to Sage. She'll shoot you if you don't start talking right now. Who told you about the wedding? He swallows hard. I needed money for rent. My girlfriend left me, and she took all my stuff, man. She drained my bank account, and I haven't gotten the money back. Cut the sob story, I growl, jumping toward him with a balled fist. You told Mr. Thompson about the wedding, right? When was that? He showed up to my apartment early this morning. When I was getting home from my shift, Johnny blurts. Talking crazy, but he offered me money. It was weird, because someone at the casino was talking about the wedding to me, but I don't know why. That's how I knew about it in the first place. That's not a coincidence, I snap. Are you stupid? Do you realize you could have gotten a lot of people killed? Someone used you to transfer the information to Mr. Thompson. Maybe they hoped he would burst in, guns blazing, but he's too much of a coward to do that. Thank God, Johnny says with a sigh. I wasn't trying to get anyone hurt, I swear. But who told you about the location? I ask, beginning to lose patience with him. Who told you about the wedding in the first place? Someone from the casino? He nods frantically. Oh yes, a guy in a blue suit. Very descriptive, I say dryly. Give me a name. He didn't give me one. I promise he didn't. He just came up to the blackjack table, played a few hands, talked about the wedding, and left. He was really specific about the date and location, which is why I remembered it well enough to tell Mr. Thompson. He kept repeating it over and over again, like it was really important. I knew Johnny was a bit simple, but this goes beyond what I was expecting from him. Despite having dealt thousands of decks in his time working at the casino, it's clear he isn't playing with a full one. You need to give me a better description, Johnny. I need every detail, I say, looking back at Sage, or my lovely wife here is going to blow your brains out. Sage frowns, holding the gun awkwardly by her side. Johnny looks at her, then at me, wearing a similar frown as Sage. It's clear neither of them really wants to be involved in this interrogation at this point, but it's too late to back out now. I need to know about the man in the blue suit, and Sage needs to learn how to pull a goddamn trigger. Johnny looks to Sage again as he speaks. Blue suit. Probably blonde hair. He had a tie on. I think it was also blue. You have such a way with words, I say sarcastically. That's all I really know. Great, I say, looking back at Sage. Go ahead and shoot him. Get up here and aim for his head. It's quicker that way. Sage shuffles up to me as Johnny starts begging for his life. His words aren't terribly convincing, though, and I suspect he doesn't really think Sage is going to shoot him. 1 in 6 chance, I whisper to Sage. Just aim and pull the trigger. She looks at the gun in her hand like it's made of snakes and spiders. Is this another one of your rigged games? You saw me put the bullet in. There's only one. Give it a spin if you're unsure, I reply. She holds the gun up, squinting her eyes as she aims for Johnny's head. He's screaming now, but it's not going to do him any good. Sage wants to prove that she can do it, and part of her actually believes that she won't hit the lucky round. 1 in 6 chance. After everything I've done, does she really think this game isn't also rigged?
Chapter 16. Sage. The shockwave travels through my entire body, knocking the breath out of my lungs and making my stomach hurt. It's like when you expect another step at the bottom of the stairs and land sooner and harder than you wanted to. I almost dropped the gun because I'm so surprised by the sudden bang and jump in my hand, but I know that would only make me look weaker in Victor's eyes. I have to prove myself if I'm to be included in anything like this in the future. My heart slams in my chest as I lower the gun. My vision is too hazy now to see what I've done, but there's an awful lot of red on the wall behind Johnny. Did I really murder someone? Can I be held liable when it was Victor who put the gun in my hand? Panic crawls up my throat, but I swallow it back down, taking a long breath and holding it as I turn around and hold the gun out to Victor. I thought you said there was only a 1 in 6 chance. A wicked smile plays on his lips as he takes the gun from me. Anything can happen when you're gambling, darling. I know he tricked me into killing Johnny, but ultimately I'm the one who pulled the trigger. I don't think Johnny really deserved it, but I also don't know him, nor do I have much sympathy for people who knowingly work for a brat boss. Victor puts his hand on my shoulder and walks me back to the iron door, opening it and escorting me out. All is quiet as we ride the elevator back up to the main floor, but I can't get the sound of the gunshot out of my head. With that one big bang, my life is forever changed. I have blood on my hands, and my initiation in the Bratva is complete. Chapter 17. Sage. You did good yesterday, Victor says, pouring milk into a bowl of chocolate puff cereal on the counter. I take a bite of my toast, blinking in the sunlight that cascades over the kitchen island. I'm more surprised that he's eating children's cereal than the fact that he's so chipper after yesterday. He didn't seem too happy when we went to bed last night. Maybe it was the lack of intimacy, but that's been off the table since our wedding was crashed. I'm not sure when I'll be ready to be intimate again, but it's certainly not now. I'm still rubbing the crust out of my eyes, and I'm sitting on a stool in a pair of simple cotton panties and an oversized t-shirt. Victor carries his bowl over to the island, sitting down next to me and squeezing my thigh. You sure you don't want any cereal? I wrinkle my nose. I don't eat dessert in the morning. He looks genuinely surprised, pulling his head back and motioning to his overfilled bowl of what might as well be candy. This is breakfast food. I thought all Americans ate this stuff. I laugh, shaking my head. No, Victor, we don't. I mean, a lot of people do when they're kids, but these days I feel like people have gotten wiser to it. It's all just a bunch of sugar. He frowns, getting up from his stool and going back to the counter. He returns with the box, his bright eyes scanning the back of it with keen interest. He looks more engrossed than he did when I pulled the trigger on Johnny yesterday. Talking about breakfast is more engaging to him than murder. I shouldn't be surprised at this point, but he always takes things just a little further than I think he will. A lot of sugar, I say as he reads the box. I take another bite of my toast. At least the bread is whole grain. That's good for you. He looks up at me and shrugs. I'm not concerned about it. I'm in good shape and I work out regularly. My blood work is good too. I'm not one to give health advice, and I'm sure he's healthier than I am, but diabetes can creep up on you. If I'm going to keep my husband around for long enough to raise kids with him, I'd prefer if he didn't drink champagne straight out of the bottle, smoke, and eat chocolate cereal for breakfast. Your bachelor days are over, I say, pulling the box out of his hand and putting it on my side of the table. Tomorrow, you should try some fruit if you want something sweet. He pouts his lips at me, his eyes narrowing. You don't want me to die so that you can inherit my riches? I crunch into the last bite of my toast, keeping my expression dead serious. There'll be plenty of time for that with how much older you are than me. I won't have to try to kill you, Victor. You're asking for trouble, talking like that, he says with a grin as he lifts his spoon. Don't think I haven't forgotten your spanking. I owe you one. Give it to me now, then I say, standing up from my stool and bending over. I'm just out of reach on purpose. He'd probably knock me over if he tried to spank me. He shakes his head, but his greedy eyes are glued to my ass. Too early for that. I need to get warmed up first. Ah, more signs of old age, I say, standing straight again. Victor chuckles, taking a mouthful of cereal and shaking his head. Not old age, my dear, just taking my time to enjoy the moment. He eats quickly, his eyes never leaving me. Besides, anticipation makes it better. I roll my eyes, but a shiver runs down my spine. Despite everything, there's an undeniable attraction between us, a pull that I can't resist even when I'm not ready for intimacy again. He stands up, taking his empty bowl to the sink. As he rinses it out, he glances back at me. We have a meeting with Ivan and the others later about the man in the blue suit. I need you to behave while we're there. I cross my arms, leaning against the counter. When am I not? Victor steps closer, his fingers brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. You're doing well, but remember, there are rules, structure. You can't just act on impulse. You need to follow my lead, and don't question me when things get intense. I have far more experience than you do. Perks of being an old man. I look up at him, his intense gaze making my heart race. I'll try to remember that. Good, he says, his voice softer now. Because I need you by my side. You're essential to the survival of the Bratva. After all, you will be having my heir. I nod, feeling a mix of arousal and fear. I understand. Do you? He asks, his hand moving to cup my chin, tilting my head up to meet his eyes. Because I won't stop until I get you pregnant. We'll do this every day if we have to. I swallow hard, the weight of his words sinking in. I understand, Victor. Good girl, he murmurs, leaning down to press a kiss to my forehead. Now, go get dressed. We have a lot to do today. As I head towards our bedroom, I can feel his eyes on me. The dynamic between us is complicated, filled with power plays and unspoken agreements. But beneath it all, there's an excitement that's undeniable. I close the door behind me, taking a moment to collect myself. I could have sworn he was going to jump up from his seat and spank me, but his words were more powerful than any physical blows could have been. He wants me to submit to him entirely, body, mind, and soul. I won't be able to escape now, and I don't even want to. I'm along for the ride, no matter how terrifying it can be. The payoff is intoxicating. I take a deep breath and begin to get ready, thinking now about the man in the blue suit. It sounds so simple, yet I know there's more at play here than a little leaked information. Victor is far too focused on this for it to be just a little hiccup. Something deeper lurks beneath the surface. Just as I pull a shirt from the closet, the door bursts open. Victor strides in with a determined look in his eyes. My heart skips a beat, and I drop the shirt, turning to face him. What? Before I can finish, he grabs my wrist and spins me around, pushing me down over the edge of the bed. I gasp, my palms hitting the mattress as I brace myself.
The next scene is too steamy to include on YouTube. You can listen to the complete unedited version with all steamy scenes included at bellakingbooks.com or by following the link in the description. Chapter 18. Victor, the man in the blue suit. That's what he's been nicknamed until we find out more about him. I'd like that to be quick because he's been on my mind since Johnny mentioned him yesterday. I may have even had a dream about him, but the details of that are blurry. I don't like trying to remember my dreams because they're so often nightmares. That's a cop if I ever saw one, Pasha says, placing a glossy print of the security footage on the table. This is the best image we have of him. Clear facial features, probably not too difficult to locate if we have enough eyes on the street, unless he came from out of town. Ivan rubs his chin, then shakes his head. Not a cop. How do you know that? I ask him, frowning at the picture. It certainly looks like it could be a cop. The blonde hair that Johnny mentioned is buzzed so short he might as well be bald. He's muscular too, and has all the markings of an undercover agent. Ivan continues shaking his head, placing a stubby finger on the photo and tapping on it. Cops don't wear Hermes. I lean in, and sure enough, I make out the familiar H-buckle of a Hermes belt. Good eye, I mutter. Pasha looks disappointed, but progress is progress. We can't let our pride get in the way here. While I'm relieved that the police aren't snooping around in our casino, it bothers me deeply that someone with a lot of money is leaking information at my casino. Whoever this is wants to play the mastermind by setting up situations that could result in my death. They're being so indirect about it, though, which leads me to believe they're afraid of getting caught. Our forces in the city are large, so they must be a smaller competitor, someone who doesn't want to be wiped off the face of the planet once we discover who they are. But coming into my club and appearing on camera was a bad move. Maybe he thought we didn't keep tapes because this is an illegal gambling ring. But I keep records of everything, even in my own home. There are no fewer than 100 hidden microphones around the house, recording every conversation, no matter how quiet it is. Now, I'm never driven to listen to them. I simply don't have the time. But when something like this comes up, I have records. Everything is tracked. So he's someone rich who doesn't like you, Sage says, patting me on the back. I don't suppose that narrows it down any. Not really, I reply, shaking my head. I start to pull a cigar out of my pocket, but then I remember what Sage said about my health. She's right more times than I care to admit. I don't want to die before I can see our children grow into adults. Even more so, I don't want to leave her alone in this cruel world. I slide the cigar back into my pocket, trying to hide my movement by adjusting the lapel on my suit jacket. We'll have eyes all around the city looking for him. If he shows his face in any restaurant, club, bar, or park, we'll know about it. Sage rubs my back, and I feel a little shimmer of warmth inside of me. It's nice to know that someone is supporting me, not just physically, but emotionally. It's something I haven't felt since I lost my family. My chest tightens when I think about it. I don't know why, but the memories have been coming up more often, and it's eating me up inside. I thought I was done thinking about it, that it was a distant memory of a past that's barely even mine. But it does belong to me. The boy that witnessed all of that is still inside of me, and he can't be contained as well. He's stronger because of Sage, empowered by her sensitive nature. I don't hate that boy, but I wished he didn't exist. Even he wished he didn't exist growing up, to the point where he almost killed himself when he was 19. If he had, I wouldn't be here, so I can't hold anything against him. I don't wish for him to die, I just wish he'd leave me alone. I'm past all that. My family is gone and they're never coming back. Are you okay? Sage whispers, and I realize everyone is looking at me. I wipe the sweat from my forehead, shaking the tension out of my body. I'm fine. I was just thinking about the man in the blue suit. We need to find him. We're on it, Pasha says, offering a reassuring smile. For some reason, it makes me angry. Everyone is looking at me like I have a problem, like I need to be pitied and coddled, and it's pissing me the hell off. All I'm doing is standing here, sweating a little, and they think I'm having a meltdown over the man in the blue suit. This isn't about him, though. Nobody but me knows what it's really about, and they never will. I turn away from them, grabbing Sage by her arm and pulling her away from the conference table. Business is done. We have other matters to attend to today, I grumble. I can sense the tension in the room as I leave with Sage, but nobody says anything. Their unspoken words hang in the air like the humidity after a rainfall. I can barely breathe because of it. I need some fresh air and a goddamn cigar. I fish it out of my pocket as we exit the meeting room, slipping it between my lips while letting go of Sage's arm. She shakes me off, taking a step back and looking at me as I pull out a lighter. What's gotten into you? Nothing, I grumble, lighting my cigar. I feel more comfortable hidden in a cloud of smoke. Your face is really red, she says. Then stop looking at it. She folds her arms over her chest, glaring at me. You're such a grump sometimes. And you're quite nosy. She slaps my arm lightly, which I'm surprised by. I thought she'd have learned her lesson from the spanking earlier, but it seems like that's only made her bolder. I have to shut this little scene down before she starts to think she can do whatever she wants to me. We're going to the car, I bark, grabbing her arm before she can smack me again. Come on. Stop it. Victor, you can't treat your wife like this, she says as I pull her along. I ignore her, bitter emotions coming to the surface and flooding out everything else. All I can think about is how terrible I feel, and that she's the one responsible for it. I hate her so much for making me feel like this. Shut your mouth and come with me, I growl, pulling her out the door and onto the sidewalk. The car is waiting there, but Ivan is still inside the building. No worries, I'll be the one driving this time. I tear open the car door, pushing Sage inside before ducking in after her. I jump over her into the driver's seat, pressing the button to start and immediately shifting into drive. My foot is on the accelerator before either of us has the chance to put on our seatbelts. Slow down, she pleads, fumbling with her belt. I need you to shut the hell up, I reply, swerving onto the road and narrowly missing another car. Their horn blares, and I stick my middle finger up in the rearview mirror. Are you crazy? What the hell has gotten into you? Sage says, her voice tight with anxiety. I told you to behave, and you seem to think that means running your mouth, I growl. I've warned you one too many times already. She falls silent, but when my eyes flicker over to her, I see that she's glaring at me. I'm always the bad guy, even when I'm not trying to be, so I'm used to this treatment. It just hurts coming from someone who I thought was on my side. A minute passes, but Sage is persistent. She's not willing to be silent the entire trip home. Can you at least tell me why you freaked out? She asks softly. I didn't freak out. You were sweating and all red in the face. I was worried about you, she replies. Why would you be worried about me? I snap. I ruined your life. She laughs. You're obviously still freaking out, Victor. I don't know what's wrong, but I'm here if you want to talk about it. I don't. She shrugs, but as we arrive at the house, I sense I'm not going to be able to get out of having a real conversation with her about my past. First, however, I need to blow off some steam in the best way I know how. The next scene is too steamy to include on YouTube. You can listen to the complete unedited version with all steamy scenes included at bellakingbooks.com or by following the link in the description. Chapter 20. Victor. I thought I only wanted Sage to have my child, the next heir to the most powerful bratva in the area, and that marriage was a formality to achieve that. But she's taught me that my desires can change in an instant. As she lays her head on my chest and I feel her silky hair flow over my skin, I feel a peace I haven't felt in a long time. It brings back more memories of my childhood, but this time, they're good ones. Those summer nights in Russia were more beautiful than any I've seen in America. They were much quieter without all the bugs, but they were still warm. Nobody wanted to work when it was nice outside, but my father was running a bar, so he'd have twice as much business on those days. I used to just run around in the park across the street with my sister Daria. She was older than me, and much more clever. She used to get us into all kinds of trouble, but our mother would talk our father out of a beating when we got home. She was too soft with us, but we loved her for it. After a long day of getting into trouble, when we went to sleep, our little bodies would be so tired that we'd fall asleep in an instant. Even the excitement for tomorrow couldn't keep us up. It's how I feel now with Sage snuggled up to me in bed, only I can't fall asleep. I feel that I need to speak to her about my past, the things I've kept hidden, so she'll understand why I am the way I am. Now, I want her to understand. Before, I didn't care. That's changed, and I hope she can appreciate that I'm making an effort however terrible I might be otherwise. You asked what was bothering me today. I begin, trying to think of a way to bring this up without creating another argument. You don't have to talk about it. I'm sorry I pushed you, she says. It hurts my heart that she's always so quick to apologize. I'm always making her out to be the one who is wrong, but in reality, I'm the bad one. I've always been the one who should be apologizing, but that's difficult for me to do. It feels like I'm failing at being the strong man everyone needs me to be. Don't say sorry, please, I say, stroking Sage's silky hair. You deserve the truth. It's just difficult for me to talk about things, especially when I don't understand them so well myself. She snuggles closer. Well, you're doing your best, and that's what matters. I laugh softly. I'm not sure if I really am doing my best. A lot of this is new to me. Feeling this way is new. You're new. Surely you've been with other women before, she says. tilting her head up to look at me. Nobody who's even come close to you, darling, I assure her. That's awfully sweet of you, she says, tracing her finger over the tattoos on my rib cage. I'm not sure I believe it, though. A man like you probably has a lot of experience. Are you calling me easy? I ask with a chuckle. Oops. Did I say that? She teases. Not exactly, but it was implied. She pinches the skin on my stomach. You know what I mean? I just don't think I'm all that special. Believe me, you are, I say, and the words are genuine for once. So many times, I've faked how I felt to get things from people, but I don't want to manipulate Sage. My emotions are real, and I hope that she can feel them just as strongly as I can. She snuggles closer to me again, her warmth making me feel more comfortable with what I'm about to tell her. I haven't spoken a word about this to anyone before, not even to Ivan or any of my men over the years. It's been locked up in the back of my mind, unable to be expressed. And yet, that one event is what made me the man I am today. It defines me in a way that nothing else ever could. So Sage says, her voice calm but curious, what is it that bothered you so much about the man in the blue suit? I'm surprised by her question, and I can't help but laugh. This isn't about him. You kind of had a meltdown when you saw him, no offense. No offense, but it had nothing to do with him. It was more about you, I reply in an equally snarky tone. You shouldn't assume things about me. It's dangerous. No more dangerous than joining the Bratva. I grin. You're difficult sometimes, Sage, but that's what I like about you. I need a good challenge in my life, and things have been a little too easy lately. I'm all the fun you could ever desire, she replies, wrapping her thighs around my leg and squeezing. I reach down and rub her soft skin, breathing deeply as I prepare to change the tone. I wish I didn't have to talk about such horrible things, but it feels right to open up to Sage. She's the only person I've felt this comfortable around. I told you that my family had been murdered. I begin, my throat going dry mid-sentence. Yes, she replies simply. Well, it really wasn't just a quick hit. There was more happening at the time. The people who were responsible were ruthless in ways I could never be. I know that sounds crazy, but you're going to hear some serious stuff in a second. I feel Sage's body grow stiff against mine, like she's bracing for a physical impact. I think she might prefer one over what I'm about to say. My father's bar was doing well. Too well, in fact, and it started drawing attention from the local mafia. But these people were destined for prison with the way they operated out in the open. It actually shocked me that not all of them ended up behind bars after what happened to my family. I begin. They were never arrested, she asks. I shake my head. Not all of them, but I'll get to that later. I just want you to understand the gravity of this lifestyle, what these people could do to someone like you. Death isn't the worst thing. You did bring me into this. It wasn't exactly my choice, she replies, running her fingers through my chest hair as though to show me that she's not angry. She's just pointing it out. I take a slow breath, feeling the warmth of her hand and wishing we could stay in this bed forever. Right? I did bring you in, and I will protect you. I promise I'll do that for you because you mean the world to me. Do I really? Yes, I reply with the utmost confidence. You do. And that's why I want you to understand the forces we could be up against. They don't care about rules, laws, or what's civil. They're evil, and not in the same way that I am. If you care about people too much, you risk being destroyed by them in the end. They turn on you? I wouldn't do that, she says. Her words have an edge of defensiveness to them. Perhaps not, but if someone did to you what they did to my family, it would destroy me. I remember clearly the day it happened. I was playing in the street with a rubber band I found on the road just outside the bar. My sister had already gone inside with my parents, and I was supposed to come inside. That's when they arrived. Who were they? The Mafia. Right. A couple of guys who had already told my father to close down his business and move. But my old man was hard-headed and didn't like being bossed around. He stood his ground, and they made him pay dearly. The only reason I didn't die along with everyone else was because I was outside when it happened, watching through the window while they defiled my sister and mother before murdering them all. Oh my God, Sage whispers, gripping my chest hair so hard that it hurts. I don't know how long it went on, really. I was fixated on it, torn apart by the image of my mother and sister being assaulted while my father was beaten senseless. I wanted to do something, but I couldn't. I was stuck. I think for a long time, I felt guilty about not helping, but now I realize I would have been killed had I intervened. They knew I was out there watching, but I think they enjoyed making me suffer, knowing I was helpless. I hate people so much. Why is the world like this? Sage asks, and I can hear in her voice that she's crying. There's a lump in my throat too, but not a single tear is shed. I'm incapable of it. I just let out another long sigh, continuing my story. A few of the men who participated in the attack were held accountable, sentences to life in prison, but not everyone ended up in jail. One person in particular got away with it, until I hunted him down years later and shot him dead in his own house. I fled the country after that, finding myself in a few different places until I came to the United States. You shot him? She asks, sounding surprised. She shouldn't be. She already witnessed me kill her father. Or Mr. Thompson, as she wants me to call him. I don't blame her for wanting to distance herself from him emotionally. I tucked all my dead family members in a pine box in the back of my head. They had their own funeral, albeit a quick one. When you're alone on the streets as a boy, you don't have time to dwell on your sorrow. Besides, we all end up in the same place eventually. I stroke Sage's hair idly, thinking about the past. I've never been one to revisit my memories unless they were particularly good. But it does feel nice to talk about this. The weight on my shoulders has gotten a little less heavy since opening up to Sage. I did kill him, and he was my first, I finally say. Not the last, though, obviously. I went on a bit of a spree before I knew what I was doing, before I got organized. That makes you a serial killer. I laugh through my nose. The difference between me and those lunatics is that I only kill people who deserve it. I'm not into whacking strangers. Just impregnating them, she replies with a smile in her voice. Only you. And you're not a stranger anymore.
Chapter 21. Sage. Whoever the man in the blue suit is, he's terribly elusive. Nobody has seen him for weeks, and it's been quiet here. Too quiet, considering how volatile things were when I was first taken from my home and wed to a Russian Mafia boss. I shouldn't complain, though. Everything I could ever need or want has been provided for me with absolutely no limits. Victor has proven that he will go to any length to make sure I have whatever pleases me, but most of the time that's just a nice dinner together followed by a wrestling match in the bedroom. So, despite the monotony, it has been fun. On top of that, we seem to be making progress with one of our goals. The man in the blue suit is nowhere to be found, but so is my period. I think I might be pregnant. The realization hits me quite hard one day as I'm eating breakfast. It's the nausea that tells me something is up. My stomach is usually quite well behaved in the morning and only tends to bother me if I've eaten a particularly large meal. Freshly squeezed orange juice and buttered toast are a safe bet, so I'm confused for a moment as to why my stomach is rejecting them. The pieces come together when Victor enters the room, his body glistening in sweat from his morning workout. He's literally perfect, but he's also the reason I feel so terrible. You look a little pale, he says, immediately trying to backtrack when he catches my look of annoyance. I mean, maybe it's a little cold in here. Are you cold? I'm fine, I mutter, but my voice lacks conviction. I push the toast away, the buttery scent suddenly overwhelming. Just a bit uneasy. Maybe I didn't sleep well. Victor's eyes narrow, and I know he's not buying it. He's always been too perceptive for his own good. Or maybe for my own good. He strides over, sweat gleaming from his body and distracting me from the churn of my stomach for a few seconds. I need more distractions, but he's going to dig into this further. He probably already thinks I might be pregnant, and he wants confirmation. You're not a good liar, Sage, he says softly. Tell me what's really going on. I swallow hard, trying to gather the courage. It's not that I don't want to tell him. I'm just not sure how he'll react. Of course he wants the baby, but what if this is nothing? Will he think I'm crazy for feeling pregnant when I'm not? Will he be angry that I tricked him? All ridiculous thoughts to have, I know, but that doesn't stop my anxious mind from coming up with them. It's funny that I handled death and violence so well, but telling the man I'm married to that I might be having his child is causing me so much stress. I think I might be pregnant, I finally say, my voice barely a whisper. His reaction is instantaneous. His eyes widen, and for a moment he looks like a child on Christmas morning, full of awe and hope. Pregnant, he repeats, as if testing the word on his tongue. Are you sure? I'm not sure, I admit, but I'm late, and this morning sickness makes it even more likely. I've never felt like this before. Victor's expression shifts from surprise to something much more serious. We need to see a doctor. We need to know for certain. I laugh a little, but his face tells me it's not a joke. I mean, we could just take a regular pregnancy test. They're not accurate, he says, his eyes so sharp they feel like they're pricking my skin. I don't trust that sort of thing. I want to know for certain. I hold up my hands in surrender. I won't argue, I tell him. I think you're right to want to know for sure. It would make me feel better too, knowing I'm not just sick. A smile spreads across his face, and his lips look like they need to be kissed. I lean in and plant a big one on his mouth, which makes him smile even bigger. All the money in the world, and his smile is the most valuable thing I have. We can go now, if you're ready, he says, looking at my barely touched breakfast. Don't we need to make an appointment, or is that what we're doing? He chuckles. Darling, we don't make appointments when we're rich. Time can't be earned back tomorrow. We must make of it what we can today. Always such a poet, I tease. Without warning, Victor sweeps me into his arms, carrying me like I'm made of glass. Let's go, my darling. Victor. I protest, laughing. I can walk, you know? I'm not taking any chances, he replies, already moving toward the door. And besides, you're light as a feather. It's nothing for me. His protective nature is so endearing. I give in, resting my head against his shoulder. He smells like sweat and the faintest hint of his cologne. I've grown familiar to his smell, comforted by it even when he thinks he stinks. I giggle as he jumps through the doorway with me in his arms, practically running toward the stairs. If you drop me, I'm never letting you hear the end of it, I warn. Never, he promises, his eyes flickering down to me. I will always keep you safe. He never fails to put butterflies in my stomach and warmth in my heart. I snuggle up to him, grateful that I don't have to walk to the car, even though I'm fully capable of doing so. It's nice to be treated like a princess, especially when the man doing it could kill a person with his pinky. The drive to the doctor is quick with Ivan at the wheel. Victor is tense beside me, one hand on the headrest in front of him, the other gripping mine tightly. His thumb strokes the back of my hand, a soothing gesture that helps a bit to ease the bundle of nerves in my stomach. I suspect nothing will take it away fully but the knowledge of whether I'm pregnant. We arrive at the clinic, and Victor helps me out of the car, his hands steady and protective. He tries to pick me up, but I want to walk this time. I'm fine, I assure him, pushing his hand away. Really, I got this. His eyes watch me closely as I take a few wobbly steps, waiting to catch me if I fall. I don't know why he thinks I'm suddenly incapable of walking. That won't happen until near the end of my pregnancy. He places a hand on my back, insisting on doing something to steady me as we walk inside the clinic. I allow it, but I really don't need it anymore. I feel better now that we're here. Inside, the receptionist greets us with a polite smile, but her eyes widen slightly at the sight of Victor. It's clear she knows exactly who he is. We need to see a doctor, Victor says, his tone leaving no room for argument. Of course, sir, she replies, quickly typing something into her computer. We'll have someone with you right away. Less than a minute later, we're ushered into a private room. The doctor, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, enters shortly after. She introduces herself as Dr. Ivanova, and her calm demeanor helps ease some of my anxiety. How can I help you today? She asks, looking between Victor and me. I think I might be pregnant, I say, my voice steady despite the nerves fluttering in my chest. Dr. Ivanova smiles at me, clearly excited by the news. That's wonderful, dear. We'll just need to run some quick tests to confirm. It shouldn't take long. Victor stays by my side the entire time, like he's guarding me from the doctor. When she draws blood, he frowns at the needle, and I almost expect him to slap it out of her hands. Relax, I whisper to him, but he shakes his head, crossing his arms and scowling the entire time. The tests are quick, and soon Dr. Ivanova returns with the results. Congratulations, she says, a warm smile spreading across her face. You're going to have a baby. The world seems to stop for a moment as her words sink in. I'm going to have a baby. Victor's child. The enormity of it all crashes over me like a wave, and I turn to Victor, tears welling up in my eyes and blurring my vision. His scowl vanishes as he pulls me into his arms, holding me tightly. We're going to be parents, he whispers, his voice thick with emotion. You've made me the happiest man alive, Sage. I cling to him, my heart swelling with love and joy. I'm happy too, Victor. So happy. As we leave the clinic hand in hand, I feel like everything is finally falling into place. The future is uncertain, but with Victor by my side, I know we can face anything together. And with a baby on the way, our bond will only grow stronger. We drive home in a comfortable silence, both of us lost in our thoughts. The mansion looms before us as we pull into the driveway, and it looks more beautiful than ever. I can't imagine a better place to raise a child. As we step inside, Victor pulls me close, his lips brushing against my forehead. I love you, Sage, he says, kissing me, so much. I'm surprised by his words, not because I doubt them, but because there was no warning that he would admit such an intimate thing to me. He's really started to open up since our conversation about his childhood. A husband should love his wife, of course, but that isn't always the case. I felt quite strongly about him for a while, but I didn't want to say anything unless he did first. I was never sure if he wanted to take it that far. I'm sorry if I seem taken aback, I say, looking up at his earnest eyes. Don't apologize. You've done nothing wrong, and I don't even expect a response. I just want you to know how I feel. I place my hand over my heart, stunned even further. Have you been going to therapy or something? I ask, letting out a nervous laugh. His eyebrows draw together in a slight frown, and I realize I'm making light of his intimate confession. I didn't mean it like that, I blurt. I'm just surprised. I wasn't expecting all this. He shrugs. I've had a lot of time to think about it. And you're not just saying it because of the baby? Of course not, he replies, trying to hide the fact that he's offended. I can still hear it in his voice, and that's how I know he's being honest. He wouldn't be this emotional if he was lying. I hug him suddenly, wrapping my arms around his waist and squeezing him hard. I love you too, Victor, I say, my voice full of conviction. We're in this together. He wraps his arms around me slowly, like he doesn't quite believe he could be this lucky. But he is, we both are, and we're going to get through this together. I'm sure it won't be easy, especially with the threats looming on the horizon, but we're a team now. Because that's what true love is. It's an unbreakable bond, forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by the knowledge that you don't have to go through life alone. I would hug Victor forever, but our time ends too soon when he gets a phone call. It's Ivan, he says as he pulls the phone from his pocket. I have to answer this. I nod, taking a step back to give him space. Ivan, what's up? He asks, his eyebrows drawing together in a tight frown. Hold on, slow down, please. Slow down.
Chapter 22. Victor. I made the mistake of thinking the past could never come back to haunt me. I thought my demons had been vanquished, but they were never truly gone. All the memories that came flooding back when I met Sage have ironically come to life. Does that name ring a bell? Ivan asks, his voice revealing an unusual amount of excitement. I'm not quite as excited though, even though I do recognize the name. It's the surname that gets me. It's a name that I haven't heard since I fled my home in Russia after putting a bullet through a man's head. Levin, you said? My voice is tight and dry. Alex Levin, that's right. We've come up with a lot of information on him already. Addresses and businesses. I'm sure you'll want to meet and discuss this. I glance over at Sage, who seems to know something is wrong. She won't understand exactly what until I get off the phone. All right, I say to Ivan, gripping the phone so hard it creaks in my hand. I want you to come over to my house. Just you and nobody else. We need to discuss this one-on-one. I can be there in 20 minutes. He replies dutifully. Great, I reply, hanging up the phone. My head feels light as I tuck it into my pocket and shift my attention back to Sage. I can't believe this is happening at such a crucial time in my life. Why does everything always have to turn sour when life is starting to be sweet? What was that about? Sage asks, her pretty face tight with worry. I wish she would never have to look like that, but life isn't so kind. Things are about to get a whole lot worse before they can get better. Come to the lounge and we'll talk about it. I'm sorry, but I need a damn cigar, I grumble, taking her hand and pulling her along. She follows me without speaking, allowing me the moment of silence to get my head straight. Right now, all I can feel is a cloudy mixture of dread and frustration. I anticipated that the man in the blue suit might cause trouble in the future, but I never thought he would be from the Levin family. Once in the lounge, I'm able to distract myself with a cigar box tucked into the corner of the bookshelf. I slide it out, opening the box and inhaling the rich scent of dry tobacco. I haven't smoked in weeks, but it's time to take a break from good behavior. The wicked men are the ones who win, after all. I light up the cigar using the silver lighter in my pocket. I've carried it around with me religiously, even after I quit smoking. Something just feels right about the weight in my pocket. It's comforting, like the shape of the gun on my hip. All right, I say after clouding half the room in smoke. Let's open a window. I don't want you breathing this crap in. Sage shuffles over to the window before I can, popping it open and making a point to cough to show she doesn't like the smoke. I want to roll my eyes, but I'm not going to. Some things aren't worth starting arguments over, and besides, she'd be the right one. I hate being wrong, so there's no point in even talking about it. I hold my cigar away from my body as I speak to her, trying to put some distance between us and the smoke. That was Ivan on the phone, calling about the man in the blue suit. They've finally identified him. She cocks her head to the side, giving me a curious look. That's good news though, right? It could be, I reply, taking a few more puffs from my cigar. The smoke tastes so good after being away from it for weeks. I feel I'm more addicted than I ever was. Or maybe that's just my trauma trying to pull me back into dependence. Sage crosses her arms, growing impatient with me. Is this guy super dangerous or something? We won't know until Ivan comes with the information he's gathered. But as stupid as it sounds, it's not about the danger. It's more of an emotional weakness for me, and I've let myself get soft in that area. You're not soft, she snaps, slapping my arm. You're the strongest man I know, and you have a heart like steel. Don't say that about yourself. I smile. She's always on my side, and I love that about her. You're right, I say softly. But this is a big deal to me because the man they identified goes by the name of Alex Levin. The man who destroyed my family, the one I ended up murdering, was also part of the Levin family. But honestly, I thought they were all gone. That's not good, Sage says, her voice dropping with her expression. But you can handle it, right? I shrug. Perhaps. I just don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. Alex was behind the wedding incident, which means he's been keeping an eye on me, digging around for information to use against me. Maybe he's not involved in organized crime because he didn't send anyone to kill me. Yet. He's an amateur. He just wants to get back at you, but he's not a real criminal, she suggests. It's possible, but I want Ivan to confirm the details. For all we know, the wedding incident could be the beginning of something bigger, or perhaps he's trying to look like a minor threat, so we don't underestimate him. Play a sucker to catch a sucker, if you will. You're no sucker. You're right. You usually do the sucking, I say with a wink, tucking my cigar back between my teeth. Are you really making jokes right now? I chuckle. There's only a few ways to stay sane in situations like these, and I'm already smoking. A joke is far from the worst I could do right now. She shrugs. True, but I want you to remember that we're in this together. Don't feel like you have to face this on your own. I hold up my finger to stop her. I don't think I need to remind you that you're pregnant. Barely, she mutters. I can shoot a gun. I've done it before. Not happening, I say, waving her idea away like the smoke between us. Why not? Just because I'm pregnant doesn't mean I can't do anything. I'm barely even. Enough. My voice comes out much louder than I want it to. I'm beginning to lose control of my emotions, and that will only dig me deeper into this mess. I need to set firm boundaries to keep our future secure. Sage's arms are crossed tight over her chest, her eyes defying me along with her posture. I sigh, shaking my head. I'm not going to risk losing you and the baby, Sage. You must understand that I'm doing this for us. She grits her teeth, refusing to give me a response. Two can play at that game. I'm not backing down. I swore to protect her, and I'm not going to break that oath. I'd rather die than see something bad happen to her, even if it was just a splinter. I smoke my cigar, letting the silence settle between us like an iron wall. She won't be able to defy me. She never has unless I allowed her to, and this won't be one of those times. This situation is simply too serious to give her even the slightest amount of rope she could use to hang herself with. We're too high up, and the ground is so far away we can't even see it. It's lost in the mist. There's a knock on the door as we stand, and I figure it's Ivan. He'd be here by now. Time for the meeting, I mumble, stepping away. I expect her to leave the room, but she stays. She doesn't want to be excluded, and I'll respect those wishes.
Chapter 23. Sage. I'm not angry at Victor, even if he thinks I am. I just want to make sure I'm around if he has some kind of adverse reaction to facing a part of his past he tried to keep hidden. Surely he can't be feeling good right now, but I don't have quite the same emotional connection to his past, which means I can see things a little clearer than he can. And one man can't be that big of a threat, especially when he couldn't even stop our wedding. Ivan has more information on that, however, so I'm not going to make any suggestions to Victor until I know what we're dealing with. Now is the time to shut up and listen. Ivan, being his usual blunt self, comes into the lounge with his hands clasped together and a blank expression on, like this means almost nothing at all to him. I've never met a man so emotionless. I thought Victor was like that at the beginning, but he turned out to be softer on the inside than I ever could have known. Ivan, on the other hand, doesn't give me that vibe. I'm not sure if someone would ever be able to get through to him, but it does make me wonder if his past is equally as traumatic as Victor's. Well, I'm not about to play the role of the therapist, so I take a seat on the brown leather couch with Victor, awaiting Ivan's debriefing. Ivan remains standing, his expression unreadable. He grunts before he talks, like he's trying to clear his throat, but he doesn't know how. Alex Levin, 35 years old, Russian. Victor rubs his chin, nodding slowly. By the age alone, I suspect he's the son of someone from the Levin family. You wouldn't know them, but I did in Russia. They were formidable when I was a child, but withered away quickly after the police caught wind of their dealings. Ivan doesn't react to Victor's explanation, he just continues with his own. Alex owns a manufacturing business in Russia. He's here currently on a tourist visa, with plans to return home in 2 weeks. His reasoning for targeting you is unclear, but since you said he's part of a crime family, this makes more sense. I know why he's targeting me, but it sounds like he doesn't know the first thing about this lifestyle, Victor grumbles. I killed his father. That's the reason. Ivan's face doesn't change. Then we will have to put a hit on him. We can't allow him the opportunity to get revenge. Victor holds up his finger, waving it at Ivan. You're right, but I want you to be careful about this. Picking off tourists is a great way to draw eyes onto our casino. Maybe that's what he wants. I interject before Victor can go off the rails. He's not a threat. I say we just kill him and move on. Nobody is going to get themselves killed just to put you under police investigation. Ivan nods, but I feel Victor tense beside me. He's still not seeing this for what it really is. Alex is poking the wolf without realizing it. He's not some kind of mad genius who is willing to get himself killed just to teach Victor a lesson. I find Victor's hand beside me, giving it a light squeeze. He pulls it away, rubbing his chin so hard that I can hear his stubble scraping against his palm. I want to talk to Alex before we do anything. One-on-one. Man to man, he says. Bring him here. Finally, Ivan's face shows something other than stone-cold stoicism. His eyebrows go up in surprise. To your house? Yes, Victor says, standing up suddenly. We bring him here and speak with him like civilized people. There's no need for guns. Yet. Ivan nods, but I can see the doubt in his face. I'm sure Victor usually puts a quick stop to people who cross him with a bullet and an improper burial, but this is more personal for him. He's chosen to face his past instead of sweeping it under the rug, and I'm proud of him for it. But I'm also scared. Will he be the same man after all is said and done? It was difficult enough for him to live through his trauma in words, but to meet it in flesh and blood could break him. Yet, despite my fears, I believe in him. He doesn't run from his fears, but faces them head-on like a man, and as his wife I will stand by him, for better or for worse. I place my hand on my belly as Ivan stands up, grateful for how far we've already come.
Chapter 24. Victor. You cross me, and you won't live long enough to flee the country. I've already decided that I will kill Alex Levin. Nothing he can say or do will prevent that from happening, but I want to hear what he has to say for himself. I want the excuses to flow from his tongue, the regret to be painted all over his miserable face before he dies. I don't tell anyone about my plan, though. I keep it close to my heart, hiding my true intentions in the same comfortable way that I hid my past from myself. Nobody will know until the time comes, and then it will be too late. There's no talking me out of this. Sage isn't opposed to me bringing Alex to the house, but she is concerned about how I'm going to react. She thinks I'm weak because I've been hurt before, but the hurt only made me stronger. I will prove to her that I can do this, that I'm the man she needs and can rely on. This is for us. For our love and for our baby. The house is oddly quiet the day that Alex is located and snatched from his swanky hotel on the north side of town. Sage hasn't been very talkative, but I know she's been thinking about this day. The baby is an afterthought until this gets resolved. I'll admit that my mind has been everywhere but on her. I feel guilty for not giving her enough attention, but I won't be able to give her my heart until my own is at peace. Otherwise it wouldn't be true and whole, and she'd know that I'm not being honest. I don't wish to be cold, however, so I still kiss her deeply and make love to her every night. I've just been distant, and neither of us has said a word about the future, about the pregnancy or the baby. We still have 8 months, give or take a few weeks, so it's not the most pressing matter. When it does get to be a little closer, my wife and child will have my full attention. Nothing will distract me from them after this. My phone buzzes in my pocket, dragging my attention back to the present. I glance at the screen. It's the notification I've been waiting for. Ivan is here with Alex. They have him tied up in a van in the driveway, and they'll be bringing him in when I'm ready. I don't know how I expected to feel, but it wasn't the calm that's now washing over my body. The nervous anticipation I had fades into a dull throb of uncaring in the back of my head, and is replaced by the solemn cloud of what must be done. My emotions are disconnected again, like they are with every other person I've killed. Alex won't be able to hurt me, physically or emotionally. I've grown much more powerful than the Levin family ever was, and now is my time to finally squash them into the dirt. My feet feel light as I walk to the kitchen where Sage is talking to the maid, Lydia. They've grown close over the past weeks, and it's nice to see Sage settling in and making friends. I think women need someone to talk to, more so than men. Maybe I'm wrong, but that does seem to be the case. Lydia, however, isn't really part of the Bratva. She has connections, but I prefer that my housekeeping and landscapers stay away from the gritty nature of Mafia work. They're not criminals and have no association with crime other than turning the other cheek when things get ugly. Lydia is especially talented at ignoring things she's not supposed paid to be involved with, but I'd rather her not be in the house at all when I bring Alex in for his final moments. Ladies, I say, clapping my hands together to draw their attention as I enter the kitchen. Sage and Lydia both turn their heads to me at the same time. You look a bit spooked, I say with a chuckle. No need to be. I just have some business to attend to in the house, and I'd like Lydia to go to the garden, and perhaps gather some fresh vegetables for dinner later this evening. Take your time with it, please. No need to rush. Lydia knows exactly what I'm saying, nodding dutifully and immediately rushing out of the kitchen. Sage looks a little more confused, probably because of my cheerful demeanor. I'm sure she expects me to be a lot more serious with Alex coming over. Our special guest is waiting outside, I say when Lydia is out of earshot. Sage frowns. Alex? I nod, moving over to her. Yes, and although I'm sure you'd like to be there, I'd prefer you not to be. You know I can't do that, she says, pursing her lips as I slip my hand around her waist. I'm with you, whether you want me to be or not. I plant a small kiss on her forehead. I always want you to be. I just don't want you to witness any more of this mess. You've seen enough. I'll see everything you have to see, she insists. I don't want you trying to protect me from it. If I'm involved completely. I'm your wife, after all. You are, and because of that, I will allow you to have the last word, I say, taking a step back. But if you ever feel uncomfortable, please just let me know. She smiles. I love you. I love you too. I wish I could stay here in the kitchen and experience her softness forever, but there are things that must be done before we can return to our normal life. I check the revolver in my pocket, the one that was previously used in a rigged game of Russian roulette. This time, every bullet is in place so ensure that no matter where the hammer comes down, Alex's fate remains the same. I text Ivan to bring him in, waiting by the door with the gun in my hand. Part of me wants to put a bullet through his head before he can even open his mouth, but I would like to hear what he has to say for himself first. Why dig something up that was settled decades ago? Stand back a bit, I warn Sage as she tries to huddle next to me. She looks down at the gun. Are you going to shoot him? I don't answer. I plan on it, but I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm acting more on impulse than a plan at this point, allowing things to happen as they were meant to be. I'm not afraid anymore. I hear a grunt as Ivan pulls the door open, pushing Alex inside. He's wrapped in rope, with only enough wiggle room to move his feet and keep from falling over. His arms are bound to his sides, and he appears to be wearing the same blue suit as in the surveillance video. Hello, Alex, I say with a grim smile. You look a little disheveled. I hope my men weren't too rough with you. Alex's eyes grow big when he realizes whose house he's been brought to. He doesn't look like he expected to be captured and brought to justice for what he did. He's surprised, and that means he really doesn't have some kind of grand plan like I had previously suspected. I have no clue what's going on, but I can promise you I have nothing to do with anything, Alex says, and his Russian accent only confirms what we already know. He's our guy, even if he's unwilling to admit it. Alex Levin, I say, slamming my hand down hard on his shoulder. Why don't you sit down so we can talk this over like civilized people? He looks around for a seat, but I shove him down to the marble floor. He falls hard, nearly hitting his head and ending it all in an instant. I wouldn't be disappointed, really, but I would like to ask him a few questions before he goes. Let's get down to it, shall we? I look over to Ivan and nod. Thank you. I will have you pick up the body when I'm done. You may leave. Ivan slips back out the door without a word, leaving me alone with Sage and Alex. Who told you about the wedding? I ask Alex as I stand over him. He's curled up on the floor, breathing hard but still fully conscious. I don't know what you're talking about. I swear. I've heard that before, I mutter, prodding him with my foot. But please don't make this more painful than it need to be. I already know who you are and what your motives are, Alex Levin, so come clean or this is going to be a very short visit. Alex looks up at me, his eyes glinting with anger. I'd rather die than be stuck here in your stupid mansion, Victor. A man like you doesn't deserve this kind of luxury after what he did. And what did I do? I ask, cocking my head to the side. What brought you here? You killed my father, he snarls. I squat down in front of him, lowering my voice so that Sage can't hear what I'm about to say. Your father killed my entire family. The only tragedy in his death was that he was able to have a son before I caught up with him. I'm going to fix that, though. Unless you tell me who leaked the location of my wedding. Nobody did, he replies with a bitter laugh. You're an idiot, and my father never did what you claim. He was a good man. I sigh, standing up and pointing the gun at his head. I want a better answer. Go ahead and shoot me, coward. I pull the trigger on him immediately, and Sage screams in surprise. Even I didn't expect such a short conversation, but I'm tired of his games already. I don't have to tolerate people I don't like just so that I can get information out of them. In this case, it's entirely possible that Alex was telling the truth. He could have been stalking me for a while to figure out the wedding plans. It would be a good idea to check the surveillance tapes at the casinos, the house, and pretty much every other location I've been to so that we can double-check this theory. If Alex shows up anywhere, I'm going to assume he got the information on his own. But it was all in vain, of course. He came to the United States to get revenge, probably bought a ticket with all the money he had made in Russia, and tracked me down to try to ruin my life. He could have killed me. He had the opportunity to, but he was the coward, not me. Ultimately, it's the man who is willing to go the further who comes out on top. And that man will always be me. Chapter 25. Victor. What worries me the most, the one thing that makes it impossible to sleep at night, is knowing that Alex may not have acted alone. I need Ivan and Pasha to come over with more evidence that it was only Alex all along. I don't trust what was told to me right before I put a bullet through his head. The Levin family never were a trustworthy bunch. They lied and stole their way to the top, betraying everyone along the way. While it's obvious that Alex wasn't able to be raised by his father because of me, I still think he retained some of the family traits. He may have made a businessman out of himself, but he still tried to interfere with my family, just like his father did. Only this time, I was the more powerful one. I wasn't the helpless child from the past. That was Alex's role to play, and he paid dearly for it in the end. But one man's end is another's beginning. With Alex out of the way, I have hope that I can rebuild my life in a better way. I'm not much of a spiritual person, but something inside of me says that Alex's existence is what held me back from putting this all to rest for so many years. I held on to the trauma, because remnants of my past were still alive. Now, all I need is evidence from Ivan and Pasha that Alex was the only man behind this, and I'm willing to leave everything behind as I step into my new life. It's a good life, too, one I'm excited to live. To be a father is a blessing, but to have a loving wife and all the money I could ever hope for is even better. I will never utter another complaint once I embark on my new journey with Sage. I have a dozen pairs of eyes on the surveillance tapes from the house, the casino, and every store I can think of ever walking into in the last few months. Something should turn up soon that will allow me to move on. Something. At some point, but apparently not today. I stare out the window as the sun sets, clutching a cigar I still haven't smoked in my hand. Sage says it's fine if it helps me with the stress, but I can't justify it. I hold it out of habit, and that's enough. I need to be healthier for our family. A knock on the front door interrupts my thoughts. I place the cigar on the table and stand up, smoothing out the wrinkles in my shirt. The only people who can get on the property are my maid, gardener, and Ivan. If it's not something about the house, then it could be news about Alex. I rush to the door, nearly tripping over a pair of Sage's sneakers on the way. I bought her so many pairs of heels, but she always wears sneakers. I find it endearing when they're not in the middle of the hallway, but maybe I should get used to stuff like that. The baby isn't going to be the epitome of cleanliness, after all. My mind quickly turns back to business when I reach the door, throwing it open and almost going for my gun when I see Pasha instead of Ivan. How the hell did he get onto my property? Sir, Ivan says, stepping out from behind him. I let out a sigh. There you are. I assume you two have news for me. They nod at the same time, and I let them into the house. I almost want to conduct business in the hallway, but I also don't want to reveal how impatient I feel. More weakness I'm not allowed to show. When Ivan and Pasha step into the lounge, their expressions are unreadable. They exchange a glance before Ivan speaks. We have the evidence you asked for, Ivan says, holding up a thick folder. It's all here. Every instance of Alex on every camera that is in 100 miles of here. There's nobody else. I exhale slowly, relief washing over me. Show me. Ivan and Pasha sit down across from me, spreading the contents of the folder on the table. There are surveillance photos, financial records, and detailed reports, all pointing to Alex as the sole perpetrator. Pasha points to a series of photos. These were taken over the last few months. Alex was stalking you, as we suspected. He never met with anyone else. All his actions were solitary. I lean in, scrutinizing the images. They show Alex in various locations, always alone, always watching. It's clear he was meticulous, almost obsessed. The financial records further cement his isolation. There are no suspicious transactions, no payments to accomplices. Are you sure? I ask, needing to hear it again. There's no one else involved. Ivan nods firmly. We've cross-referenced everything. Alex was acting on his own. I sit back, feeling the weight on my shoulders begin to lift. It's over, truly over. I can finally put this chapter behind me and focus on the future. Thank you, I say, my voice steadier than it's been in weeks. This means more than you know. Ivan and Pasha stand, preparing to leave. Ivan looks at me, a rare hint of a smile on his face. It's all over. Back to business as usual. I smile. Right, business as usual. Sage walks into the room, her eyes darting between everyone. Is everything okay? I nod, a bigger smile breaking out across my face. Everything's great, darling. Alex acted alone. Everything is finished. This case is officially closed. She comes to me, wrapping her arms around my waist. I'm glad. Now we can finally move on. Yes, I agree, holding her close. We can. With the sun setting outside, I know that this is a new beginning. One where I can be the husband and father my family deserves, free from the shadows of the past. As the last of the daylight fades, I take Sage's hand, ready to step into our future together.
Chapter 26. Sage. I thought it was all over when Victor killed Alex in our house that fateful summer day, but it wasn't. Not that any real danger followed such a brutal afternoon, but I had this notion that life would somehow be much easier. So far, it's not. I mean, the first 2 months afterward were fine, aside from a little morning sickness and the occasional cravings at 3 a.m. Victor and I were still getting closer, and the baby was healthy and growing normally. But now, things have changed, drastically. The first indication that something was wrong came the day we were supposed to go for an afternoon walk, and I was literally too sick to leave the bathroom. We both thought it might be food poisoning, so Victor threw everything in the kitchen away and had a team come in and scrub it top to bottom. It was excessive, but that's how protective Victor is. The second clue is when the nausea doesn't go away after a couple of days. In fact, it gets worse. I can't keep anything down, not even the blandest of foods. Victor, concerned that it's something more serious related to the baby, insists we go to the doctor immediately. Ivan picks us up in a black SUV, driving quickly to the doctor's office where we're ushered in without a wait. The ultrasound technician, a woman with a soft smile, moves the wand over my swollen belly. Victor holds my hand, his grip firm and reassuring. I can see the worry in his face, but he's trying to stay calm for me. The technician's expression shifts from professional neutrality to surprise. Well, that explains it, she says, turning the screen towards us. You're not just pregnant, you're going to have twins. For a moment, the world stops, and my heart almost does along with it. Twins. 2 babies. My mind is blank as I process the information. Victor's grip tightens, his eyes wide with a mix of shock and awe. Twins? He repeats, his voice barely a whisper. Yes, the technician confirms, pointing to the screen. See, 2 heartbeats. Both babies look healthy. I turn to Victor, my emotions a whirlwind of fear and excitement. His eyes meet mine, and in that instant I see a new determination there. He leans down, pressing a gentle kiss to my forehead. Twice the blessings. Twice the diapers, I reply with a laugh. The days that follow are a blur of preparations. Victor is more attentive than ever, ensuring I have everything I need. He hires a private chef to prepare meals that won't trigger my nausea, and brings in a specialist to monitor my pregnancy closely. But it's not just about the physical changes. There is an emotional shift too. Victor and I grow even closer, our bond deepening with each shared moment of anticipation and planning for the future. One evening as we lie in bed, Victor places his hand on my belly, feeling the gentle movements of our babies. "I never thought I'd be here," he mumbles, his voice thick with emotion. "But I'm glad I am. I can't imagine my life without you, Sage, or our children." I smile, placing my hand over his. "Neither can I, Victor. Neither can I." "So, you're not mad that I took you away from your previous life?" I laugh. "That feels like a lifetime ago, darling." "I suppose it was." I pat his chest, and I can't imagine living in any other timeline. This is the one. This is the life I got, but never really deserved. This is my paradise. "I'm glad you took me, Victor. Don't ever doubt yourself. I love you." His body relaxes and he kisses me. "I love you too, Sage. Forever and always."
Epilogue. Victor. The house is quiet now. The soft hum of the baby monitor is the only sound breaking the silence. I stand by the window, looking out over the expansive gardens illuminated by the moonlight. It's peaceful, a stark contrast to the life I once led. The darkness outside no longer feels menacing. It's a blanket of calm that wraps around our home, protecting us from the chaos of the world beyond. It's been months since Sage gave birth to our twins, a boy and a girl. They've brought a light into my life I never knew was possible. Every day, I wake up to their laughter, their cries, their tiny hands reaching out for me. It's a new kind of battle, but one I embrace wholeheartedly. The sight of their innocent faces each morning washes away the remnants of my past, reminding me of the purity and hope that now define my existence. I have a new family, far removed from the trauma of the previous one. I'm allowed to start again in a way that ensures there will never be any violence committed against my children. They will know a peace I never got to have. Sage is asleep in our bed, exhausted from the demands of motherhood. I watch her for a moment, her breathing steady and calm, her beauty even more radiant in the soft glow of the night. She's been my rock, my strength, and seeing her with our children fills me with a profound sense of gratitude. Her resilience amazes me daily as she balances her love for me with the endless patience and tenderness she shows our children. It's the same tenderness she brought into our relationship, the kind that turned the brava beast I used to be into a human being again. Make no mistake, I can still be a beast in the bedroom, but I'm glad to be more like a person again in everyday life. I turn my attention back to the monitor, watching the tiny figures on the screen. Our son Dima is the spitting image of me. He's strong and determined, even in his infancy. His little fists clench in his sleep, as if ready to take on the world. And he will, since he's the heir to my empire. Our daughter, Daria, has Sage's eyes, full of warmth and curiosity. They are my world now, the reason I strive to be a better man every day. Daria's gentle smiles and Dima's fierce determination reminds me of the balance I seek in my own life. I need strength tempered with compassion. My past isn't something I can erase, but it no longer defines me. I've made mistakes, committed acts that still haunt me, but Sage's love has given me a chance at redemption. I can recreate myself now. I view our children as my second chance, my opportunity to build a legacy that isn't defined by power and money. I think back to the days when I was consumed by the demands of my position, the ruthlessness required to survive in that world. Those days seem distant now, overshadowed by the promise of a future filled with love and happiness. I haven't lost sight of what I'm doing, but I have reframed how I behave at home. I'm still the tough brava boss when I visit the casino, but that feels more like a character than my true self. The real Victor is the one at home, the man whose heart is filled with joy every time he sees his wife and kids. That's the real me, and I'm proud to be him. I step away from the baby monitor and walk down the hall, stopping at the door to the nursery. Pushing it open gently, I enter the room, my heart swelling with love at the sight of our sleeping babies. The room was decorated by Sage, who chose soft colors and a playful animal theme for the walls. I enjoy being here more than I'd admit to anyone. I don't know why, but the feeling of innocence draws me in and keeps me here when I have trouble sleeping. One time, I even fell asleep on the floor, but after Sage panicked the next morning when she couldn't find me, I've been careful about doing that again. I reach down and adjust Dima's blanket, then place a kiss on his and Daria's forehead. They stir slightly but remain in their peaceful sleep. I'm always tempted to grab them and hold them in my arms, but that would wake them up and they'd cry for Sage to come and feed them. For now, she needs to sleep. Unlike me, she's actually able to fall asleep every night without a problem. I like to take credit for it, considering that she wouldn't fall asleep if she didn't feel safe and happy, but I know she's always been a good sleeper. I'm glad the babies are as well. As I stand there, watching over them, I think about the future. There will be challenges, no doubt. But for the first time in my life, I feel ready to face them, not as a lone warrior, but as a father, a husband. I envision the milestones to come, their first steps, first words, and the joy of seeing them grow and discover the world. Sage and I have built something beautiful out of the chaos. Our love is my greatest victory. I lean against the crib, whispering a promise to our children. I will always be here for you. I will keep you safe, no matter what. As I leave the nursery and return to our bedroom, I slide back into bed beside Sage, pulling her close. She stirs, her eyes fluttering open for a moment before she snuggles against me, a contented sigh escaping her lips. With a deep sense of satisfaction, I close my eyes, holding Sage close. The future is ours, and I have everything I have ever wanted. With that realization, I'm finally able to fall asleep. Thank you for listening to Arranged Mafia Daddy by Bella King. If you enjoyed this book, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel.